Porque eles falaram que são 5 chefes. Alguns retornando, sabe? Varshan vai pro Eterno, vai. No final da temporada 1 ele vai pro Eterno. Que eu achei legal, tá? Eu acho bacana, é chefe extra. Porque, mano, precisa. Tem uns caras comparando com o Last Epoch. Mano, o Last Epoch, eu vou ser sincero. Eu achei ele um jogo legal. Mas ele é feio pra caralho. Ele tem ideias muito boas. A ideia de comércio dele, pra mim, foi a melhor ideia que eu já vi num jogo de RPG de ação. Vai mudar o dano de vulnerável? Vai trocar a fórmula, sabe? Então eles vão fazer um rework nessa fórmula. E isso quer dizer o quê? Você não vai precisar mais estacar crítico e vulnerável. Você vai poder fazer uma build que faça coisas, tipo assim, dano brutal. Dano brutal não compensa, velho. Deixa eu só ver aqui. Mano, eu pedi o remédio de manhã. O cara me mandou mensagem agora. Falou, então, quando que a gente pode entregar? Eu falei, de manhã. Ô Adriel, eu vou falar a verdade. Last Epoch, eu não tenho. Eu joguei a beta, coisa e tal. Puta, eu não gostei muito, velho. Ele faz coisas muito legais, tá? Só pra deixar claro. Mas tudo no jogo é menor. Sabe? O mapa mundi é umas areazinha pequenininha. Os personagens são horrorosos. E eu tô sendo, manso, eu tô sendo tão simpático quando eu tô falando horroroso, velho. Porque, assim, pra ser feio tem que melhorar muito, sabe? Tem genderlock. Tem muita coisa que me incomoda. Tem muita coisa que eu gostaria de que tivesse no Diablo. Mas não a ponto de eu jogar o Last Epoch, sabe? E boa tarde, Rigates. Aba das gemas não vai virar aba, né? As gemas vão virar material. Está falando um pouco do Last Epoch e a temporada nova do Diablo 4. Ô Noct, eu acho que o PoE 2 vai ser um sucesso, cara. Porque assim, o meu medo é que o PoE 2 continue tão complicado quanto o PoE 1. Aí, o objetivo do PoE 2, que era atrair uma nova galera pra jogar, não vai ser cumprido, né? Porque vai continuar sendo difícil e a galera casual não vai jogar. Então, o Sephirodin, eu acho que o Diablo, de todos esses, né, tem a melhor base. Você acha que vai vir Tier 5 agora? Não, não acho. Já tem data pra Season? Tem, dia 17. Vitor, e aí, como é que você tá? Tico, maior arrependimento de todos ter gastado 500 pila nesse jogo. Procura o Procon. Mano, o PoE é muito complexo. Ninguém começa PoE. Eu não conheço ninguém que fala, então, vou jogar PoE agora. Você já jogou? Não, vou testar agora. E aí, Daniel, como que você tá? PP, eu só vou fazer a barba perto da BGS. Ô, gente, quem tá no YouTube e não conhece o PPGG na área, segue ele lá, segue na Twitch também, vocês não vão se arrepender. Hoje eles vão falar metade. Pelo que eles falaram, são 2 lives de 2 horas. Então hoje e dia 10. Pô, é que nem Dota, não dá pra começar. Porra, eu concordo. É bem isso, cara. Todo mundo fala, não, Dota é o melhor jogo de todos. Pra quem jogou desde 1990. Porque se começar agora não existe, mano. Não, GP, não, 2000, tipo assim, 800 horas de pós você não fez tutorial, né, velho? Ahn, Pior que eu joguei muito e gostei muito do jogo. Eu espero que façam mais conteúdo como novos inimigos. Oi, meu Deus, espera aí, gente. E não, eu assim, você tá falando do Diablo? Mano, o Diablo, eu adoro o jogo. Eu gosto da lore, eu gosto do jogo, sabe? Então não é um negócio que me incomoda jogar, sabe? Porque tem gente que parece que se esforça pra jogar, gostar de videogame, né, velho? Ainda dá pra terminar o passe? Dá sim, o Denis. O passe você termina em uma semana, às vezes nem isso. Ô Yuri, cara, eu gosto muito do Diablo 4, gosto da jogabilidade, mas eu tenho que concordar que a mecânica dele de. Como é que eu vou dizer? Os cálculos, assim, frustram quase todo tipo de build que não seja vulnerável a dano crítico, sabe? Mano, eu ia fazer umas builds pra primeira temporada. Aí eu comecei a, né, tipo, a montar a build. Aí eu parei, eu nem soltei vídeo, porque não dava. Simplesmente não dava. Não era viável, sabe? Era fazer uma build assim, olha, essa build é divertida? É, divertida, só que você não vai matar nada. Então não funciona. Diablo 4 morreu? Não, nem de longe. Fica tranquilo, gente. Gente, eu sei que, teoricamente, o ideal é falar que o diabo morreu, tá? Mas não morreu. Queria o monge, mano. As viúvas do monge são implacáveis, né, cara? Pelo repetitivo igual Diablo 3, endgame é meio chato. Pepe, não. Sabe aquela coisa do. É questão de. É. Como é que eu vou dizer? O loop do jogo sempre foi o mesmo, tá? Vamos deixar uma coisa bem clara. Que é fazer dungeon, ficar mais forte pra fazer dungeon. Mas no Diablo 4, o cálculo é chato. É chato porque você tem que abdicar tudo que seu personagem faz pra fazer um atributo só, que seria o dano vulnerável, né? E meio que então tudo que você faz tem que ser voltado aquilo pra todas as classes. Aí é foda. Demora tanto pra chegar no 100. Ô, Iluvatar, eu vou falar. Eles bufaram a XP agora. Eu. Só pra deixar claro. Eu não acho nenhum problema de demorar pra chegar no 100. Porque eu sou da época do Diablo 2. Sabe quanto tempo demora pra você chegar no 99 no Diablo 2? É muito mais do que você chegar no 100 no Diablo 4. Ô, Gon, ó, que muito legal você tá querendo vender a sua conta. O lance é simples, tá? Eu posso te banir agora, ou você pode falar que era uma brincadeira. Depende da sua próxima mensagem. Ó, Adriel, comprei Diablo essa semana, fechei a campanha, liberei a dificuldade 3. Não comecei a temporada. Ainda tá valendo a pena correr? Dá pra fazer, Adriel, dá sim. É... Porque a temporada é bem curtinha, tem pouca coisa. E a jornada de temporada você consegue terminar ela numa semaninha você termina. Cara, PVP, eu vou falar a verdade. Diablo nunca foi focado em PVP. Nunca, tá, gente? Eu sei que a galera fala, não, mas tem que ter PVP. Velho, não tem. PoE não tem PVP. Diablo 2 tem PVP, mas ninguém usa. Diablo 3, coitado, Diablo 3 o PVP é uma piada. Então, assim, RPG, Action RPG, o lance é você ficar quebrado. Se você fica quebrado, o PVP não funciona. Você entendeu? Boa tarde, Stark. Gente, tô perdendo. Se eu perder mensagens, manda de novo, me marca, tá? Porque a chance de eu perder mensagens é alta. Vão mudar o dano que você recebe também com as resistências elementais, bem lembrado. Então, Matheus, o lance é o seguinte, se você faz... Eu até entendo que atrai um público maior, mas esse público não fica. Você entendeu? Tipo, fala, precisa de um PVP. Mas o PVP pra funcionar teria que ser normalizado. Sabe? O dano tem que ser normalizado e isso vai inviabilizar a sua build. Porque você faz uma build extremamente quebrada, você faz todos os detalhes, faz uma farmada. Pra chegar no PVP, os caras reduzirem o seu dano. Aí você fala, porra, pra quê? Não, o jogo, cara, morrer não morre. A primeira temporada foi fraca, vamos falar a verdade. Cara, o World Boss. Ô Will, eu vou falar, eu gostei desse PVP. Da maneira, sabe, de deixar aberto ali se você quisesse. Só que eu não gostei das recompensas, são muito fraquinhas as recompensas, sabe? Jogou o Last Epoch? Joguei. Eu tava falando, tem coisas no jogo que eu acho que são umas ideias muito fodas. Mas no geral, eu mais desgosto do jogo do que gosto. Sabe, Genderlock, aquele sistema de habilidades que você tem skill tree dentro da habilidade. É balela, vamos falar a verdade. Então, tem muita coisinha. Abelha, a drop é pra quando tiver no Cyberpunk e no Assassin's Creed amanhã. O drop de Assassin's Creed eu vou jogar hoje de novo, mas ele começa amanhã a partir da 1. O Maturink, mas é bem isso. O problema é o seguinte, o Diablo quebrou a bolha, né? Estourou a bolha do RPG de ação. Então, a galera que chegou no Diablo falou, ai não, mas eu vou perder meu personagem. Filha, é assim que é, entendeu? E aí, Dark Knight, como é que você tá? Copérnicos, e aí? E aí, Ademir, como estamos? Gente, 5 minutinhos pra gente começar. Você viu pra build PVP? Sério? Ó, aí... Até esquecido que existia Diablo, né? Então, mas eu achei que tem pouca coisa, ô Jorge, pra você fazer aquilo, sabe? Porque querendo ou não, aquele conteúdo ali é um negócio difícil. Porque você tem que matar os monstros e você ainda tem que não morrer, né? E aí os caras me deu umas recompensazinhas muito fuleira. Ô, Copernicus, exatamente. Velho, desde sempre você começa um personagem novo na season e os caras falam, não, isso é muito ruim. Mano, o que você quer jogar é MMO. Vai jogar Lost Ark. Acredito mais nessa empresa não. Ô, Rafa, tá. Quer que eu falo o quê? Não joga. Assim, eu vou jogar, entendeu? Tipo... Jorge, eu também concordo, viu? Não, concordo com o Ademir, desculpa. Vou tirar aqui, ó. Opa, peraí. Aí.
Diablo IV since launch. With a new quest line, events to play as you drive back the vampiric horde, unholy vampiric powers to wield, and new endgame encounters to test your skill.
And players will need to harness the enemy's own blood magic against them to end this new evil before it's too late. Diablo IV, the Season of Blood.
In Season 2, the people of Sanctuary have a new danger to face, invasion by an army of vampires. This shadowy vampire cult has laid claim to large areas of the world and have begun abducting innocent citizens to use in their dark rituals.
Everyone's lives are at risk, including your own.
In Season 2, players are going to uncover a plot led by a new ancient vampire named Lord Zier, who's awoken recently.
Lord Zier is a remnant of a lost age. Before there were humans in Sanctuary, it was inhabited by the firstborn children of Inarius and Lilith, who are known as the Ancients.
But because of Inarius' actions, the Ancients had their powers drawn away from them. But some among them were not strictly subject to a true death.
Zier and his cohort were banished to sleep for
Caralho.
eternity in the city of the Ancients, but
O
due to the events of
vampirão
Diablo IV,
era dos anciões, cara. Oh, aí achei legal, hein?
humans living on the surface above.
During the events of Season 2, the player is going to contract a vampiric curse, but they're not under Lord Zier's control, which gives them a unique opportunity to strike back against the cult and stop Lord Zier's plans.
We'll encounter a variety of new characters this season, including a band of vampire hunters, one with a particularly shadowy past.
Seek out Zier's army. Kill as many as you can.
Eris is a professional vampire.
Pô, aí sim, hein?
She's crossed and recrossed the wilds of Sanctuary, putting an end to the undead since long before the events of Diablo IV.
I need to go off to the magistrate and you're gonna have
Anúncio no meio da live? Não tô
Eris is
vendo,
played by
gente.
actor
O
Gemma
anúncio é
Chan. It's
automatizado.
exciting to see more film and television actors lending
Anuncia o
their
Pala,
talents to the
né?
video game world. Gemma brings a wealth of experience to the table from a wide variety of roles. She was a
Que horas começa a live? Já começou?
into this character of a world-weary but determined vampire hunter with a lot of emotional complexity.
That's a bite mark. You're changing, aren't you? No, from the depth of that wound.
Cara, eu não consigo ver, gente.
She's compassionate towards others, but she's also witnessed a lot of horror in her life, so she's pretty emotionally guarded and stubborn and fixed in her worldview. Oh, you're going to change. I'm sorry, but whatever's preventing your cravings won't last forever. It never does.
She realizes that the player character has these vampire traits, which makes him a useful tool, but potentially a disposable one.
This is madness. Perhaps that's what it takes.
One of the
Novos
core
poderes
seasonal
vampíricos
mechanics
aí,
this
ó.
season are vampiric powers. Vampiric powers can be acquired by defeating Bloodseekers and minions of Lord Zier in order to acquire potent blood, which allows you to unlock or upgrade vampiric powers.
When you
Você
collect all these
precisa
various powers,
pegar o
they have
sangue
costs,
potente dos
which are
caras,
going to be
né?
detailed as part of the pack system. So armor pieces that you collect during the course of the season are going to have these packs associated with them.
There are 3 types of packs, and you can use the boons they provide in order to fuel the blood seals for various vampiric powers. You can
Agora as
combine the power of
armaduras-
different blood seals in the Sanguine Circle, so long as you have the appropriate combination of packs in order to power them.
One thing we've really tried hard to do is to provide powers that
Agora-
enhance every build so that there's no one right way to play when pursuing that vampire fantasy.
There's one in particular that I like where as the player dashes, they turn to a cloud of bats, and they'll curse creatures they pass through along the way. As you kill those creatures, you
Man.
can actually steal their souls. When you use certain abilities on your character, all of those souls are unleashed, dealing devastating damage to nearby creatures.
There's also an ability called Rising
Caralho, eu tô hypando esse negócio aí, não devia, mas tô hypando.
Stacks, you go into a vampiric blood rage. If you can't get enough of bats, there's even a vampire power that allows you to summon a bat companion. They'll take a bite out of your enemies and have a chance to stun them.
Lord Zier's army is pushing across Sanctuary in an event called the Blood Harvest, which will always be active
Mano.
but will change locations in a cyclical way.
Blood harvests are large-scale open-world events where vampires have overwhelmed an area.
Tá, a maré de sangue vai virar... Vai ter concorrente aqui.
Players will venture into these areas to rescue prisoners, stop sinister rituals, and hunt for high-value enemies.
Eles nem começaram a mostrar o negócio, hein,
A
gente.
variety of new items, as well as the potent blood that fuels their vampiric powers.
Maré de vampiros, né, mano?
5 new returning endgame bosses for players to engage with once they get into World Tiers 3 and 4.
Esquece, calma, deixa, tipo, a hora que eles deram uma pausa, eu traduzo o resto, porque senão a gente acaba perdendo muita coisa.
Powerful elemental attacks, giving players more reason to seek out and equip gear that enhances their resistances.
Aí, ele tá falando das resistências que talvez, né, a gente vai descobrir a...
So if there's a build-defining unique you're after, you'll be able to target farm specific bosses.
And our most challenging boss that we're going to be adding is
Target farm de boss ali, eu
to
achei...
drop extremely rare unique items that players have been hunting for. We're also going to be adding some
Mano, é isso, foda-se, hypei pra caralho. Fudeu.
taking our gem system and making it so when gems drop for the player, you're actually collecting materials. They're going to be stored differently. They're not going to go into your inventory the same way to help alleviate some.
As gemas agora vão virar material, então não é mais...
As long as you finish the prologue, you can now choose to skip the rest of the campaign and dive straight into creating a seasonal character. If you previously unlocked a
Não precisa ter terminado a campanha.
immediately available to use when you begin your journey through the Season of Blood. And we've made it so that renown rewards persist through seasons, so that the reward is now account bound.
As we do with every new season, we'll be adding a new season journey and a new battle pass filled with new, like vampiric-themed cosmetics for them to collect, and we'll also be
Mano, olha essas armaduras.
both in the free and paid versions of our battle pass in Season 2. We'll also be making a number of other changes to the game, updating unique powers and items, reviewing legendary aspects for different classes. We're going to be updating stats like our resistance values across the game, and a number of other balance tweaks to make sure the game
Hypei, é isso. Foda-se.
One of the most exciting
Hypei pra caralho.
working on seasons is that Sanctuary is a big place and there's a lot going on. The primevals and the angelic forces are still very much in play, but I think players are going to enjoy seeing some more human scale dramas play out.
Diablo 4's second season will be our largest content update yet, but we're only getting started.
Eu não hypo, fico animado.
Powers, and events each season. We'll continue to improve upon established systems by listening to player feedback to make your adventure in Sanctuary the best it can be.
We're incredibly excited for you to explore more corners of Sanctuary, so come join us in the hunt.
Foda-se, hypei
Guys, how's it
muito,
going?
mano.
Welcome to another developer update live stream for Diablo 4.
Passe ainda são 1000 platinas, eu acho que sim.
Director here for Diablo. I'm joined by our wonderful panel here. Some familiar faces, one new face. Feel free to introduce yourselves, you guys.
Thanks. I'm Joe Shelley, game director for Diablo 4.
Joe Shelley tá lá ainda, só pra deixar claro, gente.
Associate dungeon designer for Diablo 4.
And I'm Joe Pipora. I'm the associate game director for Diablo 4's live service.
And I
Quero-
know,
Ai,
you
obrigadíssimo
guys
pelo
actually
sub.
just saw an early look at Season 2, Season of Blood, with that video before the actual live stream kicked off. I do want to start off, before we kick off into this conversation,
Yeah.
there is going to be an
Na
emergency
frente do cara, peraí.
if you live in the US at 11:20 on every single mobile device. So you may actually see us look at our phones or our watches, or you might hear it at
Agora
home
melhorou.
if you live in the US. So if you do hear a weird noise or something, we've tried throwing everyone's phones out the
Oh, nada contra o Adam Fletcher, tá, gente? Mas eu prefiro fazer parte do negócio.
time check though, which it lets me know that it's 11:20, which is really funny. But we do have a lot to
Pacific.
What was that?
20 Pacific.
It's Pacific time, 11:20 Pacific. Sorry, we live in California, and so that is the time that we kind of base it. So based off your time.
Gente, acabei de ver que começou a comercial na Twitch.
17
Fudeu,
minutes,
gente, desculpa,
everyone.
gente.
But
Tô com medo de ter
I just wanna
hype.
give that heads up to everyone that if you hear a weird noise, or if you hear a weird noise at home, that's what it is. It's a test. If you live in the U.S., that is. But we do have a lot to talk about here. We do want to talk about Season 2.
Agora começa.
Of course, with Season of Blood, and go through all the gameplay mechanics, a little bit about the story.
O overview
some of
eu achei muito bom, cara.
The new elements
Oh,
that
obrigado.
come within this season.
Pelo sub.
Coming really close to Season of Blood, which is
Resumão.
on October 17th.
Álvaro, vou fazer o
And of
resumo,
course,
vai estar no
Season
canal
of
também,
Blood
fica
will
fica
also be
tranquilo.
ending On October 17th.
Será que vai ser mais uma season que termina em 30 dias? Mas é por aí, viu, Romulo? Toda season é isso, viu, gente? Só pra deixar claro.
And then we have,
Não posso gostar, me segura, me segura.
updates to actually go through a ton.
Alguém me segura.
We expect this actual developer update live stream to go for about 2 hours, because we do need to go through a ton of items with everyone. And then we have some news and announcements to make regarding Diablo 4 towards the end. And of course, we have our Q&A, which we'll be taking questions from Twitch chat. And then I know
Não, a primeira temporada foi muito curtinha, foi bem curtinha
started
mesmo.
a forum thread earlier this week, or late last week, regarding the developer update live stream. So I do know that we do want to kick it off with a little bit about Season 2.
Yeah.
So want to jump straight into it?
É, não, é putinha da Blizzard SA, gente, aqui.
Together where we talked about the Season of Blood. But in Season 2, the players are going to be confronting a
batemos
new
a
villain
meta,
who's
hein,
begun
gente?
to, like,
Hype
surface
train,
throughout
brigadíssimo.
Sanctuary. A character named Lord Zir, this ancient vampire who's awoken recently and begun to, like, gather all of these vampiric cultists and other followers.
Esse
to his
Lord
banners
Zir,
in an
gente, que eu
effort
tô
to, like, kind of
falando.
overtake Sanctuary and achieve his own aims across the
Ele
world.
é...
Now, while the player is progressing through the season, they're going to meet a new
tô lendo
character
danos.
named Eris, who I think we have. So you're going to meet Eris. during the
O
course of the
Lord
season.
Zir, ele é um dos filhos originais da
He's been
Lilith
trying to, like,
e
thwart
do
Lord Zir
Inarius.
for the past, like the past few weeks and months, trying to hunt them down and try to eliminate them entirely. She's not having great luck
sort of investigating the cults.
Veio antes da Lilith. Não, antes da Lilith não, né?
Kind of
No caso.
Picture, but as part of the story, as the player is progressing through the season, mild spoiler here.
900 horas de propaganda, velho.
But
Eu passo todas as propagandas da Twitch de uma vez só, tá?
With the odorless blood in the player character, they're going to be able to resist some of the effects of Lord Zir's influence, and instead gain all of those same powers without those detriments that are holding back other creatures, which can be really, really cool. But Eris is going to be fairly...
Bobagens vampíricas.
She's only ever seen anyone who ends up actually contracting vampirism this way end up following and serving Lord Zir in the end, regardless of their intentions overall, which we dig more into a little bit later on with enemies and such. But this represents this interesting new character that you'll be able to work with as you're kind of following the quest line of the season. So as you're going through these things, you'll be kind of going across all the world.
Danço eu vi, mas eu vou ser sincero, só vou ver essas coisas lá.
About how there are a number of dungeons we added with this.
Mano, eu tô muito no hype. Só naquele trailer ali eu tô hypadíssimo.
Yeah, so we have new dungeons that are part of the quest line. You can explore crypts. There's a really cool dungeon at the end when you are going to confront Zir for the final battle. And in addition to that, throughout the story, you will be revisiting some old places that are a bit different now that Zir's minions have come and taken over.
Yeah. So I think we're seeing some of the dungeon stuff here.
Yep.
So the new dungeons in the quest line are pretty cool, particularly that finale that you called out, like when you're going to sort of get a chance to, once you've tracked down Lord Zir with Eris and you get a chance to really confront him in his lair, those are some pretty epic moments that we don't want to
Então, eles estão falando das dungeons, tá, gente? Tem novas dungeons e tem uma grande dungeon no finalzinho ali.
To look forward to.
Combate o Lord Zir.
Other characters as well as they're progressing through the season. There are other allies they kind of are going to meet. They're going to learn more about Lord Zir's plans overall, what his real intentions are for Sanctuary.
Os personagens equipamentos não tenha item que... Mano, concordo, Guilherme. Eu gostaria que não tivesse aquele que tem que ter.
Vampiric cultists are trying to take everything over, and that manifests in a bunch of different ways throughout the season.
Tradução simultânea no final, gente.
The next thing I want to talk about are the mechanics, like what you're going to be doing during the season to kind of gain power and such. So we talk about the fantasy of the season is that the player is basically
dia 17, gente.
Vampire
Não nessa, na outra semana.
of the season of blood.
Nessa, não na outra, não.
To making sure that we have cool vampiric powers for players to collect and use.
Poderes vampíricos,
so what we see here is our vampiric power user interface. It's the way players are going to be able to collect a lot of powers as they're progressing through the season, and then slot them into the circular UI above. So throughout the season, players are going to be able to acquire up to 22 vampiric powers as they play.
São 22 poderes vampíricos.
They are, unlike in Season 1, where with Wellington Hearts, we had a lot of very class-specific hearts baked in. We tried to make sure that the vampiric
Mano, overpower garantido inimigos que estão com medo.
So that there's just more combinations and things for players to select from and play with as they're thinking about their build. And yeah, so we have a few of these shown up right here. They come with a few different varieties in terms of the level of power of them, and each of them have a packed cost. Well, I will talk about a little bit more in just a moment.
Cada poder tem custo de pactos que você tem que ter na armadura.
Associated with them in order to fuel these, again, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. Why don't we actually see if we take a look at maybe a couple of these powers themselves?
Daqui a pouco a gente vai ter que parar, tirar print dessas coisas, tá, gente?
Players can have a vampiric power they get as they're progressing through the season, where their evade allows them to turn to a cloud of bats, and it also makes them unstoppable for a few seconds after they use it at the same time. And it's a way for the player to deliver a new effect that you can get throughout the season, which is called Vampiric Curse. So when you see that red effect above a lot of the creatures that the player is fighting, they're under the effects of Vampiric Curse. And if you kill them while that effect is active,
Dark Souls, né?
You get to steal their souls and bind them to you for a short period of time.
Se você matar o inimigo que tá com essas coisinhas vermelhas ali, você rouba a alma deles. É todo mundo necromante nessa bosta, é isso.
As you can see here, these missiles, these spirit missiles that fly out and hit lots of different creatures as you're playing through. So it kind of gives you this opportunity as you're going through packs and dungeons or elsewhere to kind of stack these up and use them to quickly burn down groups or elites that you might have to come across as you're playing. There's other cool things you'll get, like there's abilities for based on other companion skill uses and other things where you can we have this where bats will come down and attack your enemies. And then
todo mundo vai jogar de necro, gente, até que se prove o contrário.
We showed before. There's another one here that is more focused on channeling skills. Yeah, here it is. So when you start using channeling skills, be able to drop this pool of blood around you, which gives you some extra protection. It also enhances all the damage that you deal while you're nearby. So this is going to be able to fire when you're using like any kind of channeling skill and enhance those channeling skills. It just gives you a bit
pra quem fica parado, tem uma poça de sangue aí, ó.
When you're playing into this build. So pretty fun ways for you to kind of maximize and get extra damage rather from a channeling build for a class.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's cool about the vampiric, that I like about the vampiric curse is that there are a few different ways, a few different things that can trigger it, and a few different ways to key off it. And so a lot of these vampiric powers have interactions with that curse. It kind of forms a unifying thread in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. We think it's a really cool extra ability for players to play with, and being able to trigger it in different ways is very fun, we think. So the next thing I want to talk about was actually how you're able to fuel your vampiric powers, those packs I talked about before.
Tem uns poção nova ali.
If you look here in the inventory screen, you'll see that that all of the armor pieces that players are collecting are going to have a set number.
Eu espero que não tenha uma base, viu? Falar a
You see
verdade.
here on the items themselves, like they all have these small symbols off on the left-hand side. Yeah, or underneath them, or rather. And these represent the various packs that players can collect of the 3 different types to fuel all the vampiric powers they can collect. Because ultimately, you want to gather all your vampiric powers, you want to level them all up to level 3 to make them as strong as you can get them, and then you want to make sure that you can fuel all of those vampiric powers so you can have all 5 slotted that you really care about. And to do that, you need to make sure that you've got the right kinds of armor pieces available. The packs are only going to appear in armor, they don't appear on jewelry or on weapons, just on armor pieces.
Esses pactos é só armadura.
And I should say, every armor piece that drops during the course of the Season of Blood will always have packs associated with them as well. So you're not looking for items that are going to have. It's not rare in that way. And as the player progresses through the season, they're going to also gain these new items. They will collect.
Não, vulnerável crítico vai ter rework também, Guilherme.
But these allow players to basically remove packs from items. They allow them to eject new packs into items, up to the pack limit, which is based upon the tier of content the player is playing in. So normal items have 3, and then sacred have 4, and then on to 5 as you go into ancestral. So as you're progressing through, you get more of these packs, and you have a lot more control over your ultimate pack loadout on your items as you
Mago vai continuar lixeira, óbvio, né?
use to kind of modify and update your items. So we're really excited about this. Great ways to get these are going and completing other, like I mentioned, the Blood Harvest in the video. We'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. But killing Blood Seekers is a way to get these in a really good way. So there's lots of ways to kind of grab these. So that's kind of like the very high level. We'll talk more about about other things you'll be doing to gain those vampire powers. We get to some of the other sections when we're talking about Season 2. But there's also a lot of new enemies and things we're adding as part of Season 2 as well.
Right. So as part of Season 2, we actually added a bunch of new monsters. Lord Zier has a ton of different minions that will be all throughout the continent. First, we have here our Shadow Vampires. These guys are not your typical flavor of vampires. They have a bunch of really
eu concordo. Eu não acho que vai vir trade, mas eu concordo que o trade é fundamental.
A variety of dungeons. Paired with these guys, we also have our Blood Skeletons. These guys are kind of similar to our regular skeletons, but they also come with new attacks that allow you to have new counterplay and techniques in order to defeat them and get around them. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, they have a little bit more area denial baked into their kits, right? As you're fighting some of the blood skeletons.
Yeah, you definitely want to watch where you step, when you're engaging with these guys.
Yeah, and the vampires have these cool things where they occasionally drop these giant heart-like lumps on the ground, and sometimes
E essa flamberge, né, mano?
Off of these things. So
Mano, eu tô adorando o que estão mostrando, velho.
Spaces where you have to fight shadow vampires frequently to make sure that you're knocking these things out to prevent those shields from being applied. So yeah, there's some cool things to react to as part of this. But of course, that's not even the only creature, right? Because there's the man himself, right?
Yeah. So we also have Lord Zier. Here he is on his throne.
Brooding.
Yes. He is the mastermind. You will be facing off with him throughout the season and during the end of the season. He is our big bad evil guy, and coming.
O cara, as skins dos bichos falando que são inimigos nossos.
The Bloodseekers.
Oh yeah, the Bloodseekers. So Bloodseekers are really cool. So Bloodseekers are a new idea in Season 2. And the concept here is that, as the player has been, is sort of protected a little bit by Lilith's blood in this way, that they're not able to be controlled by Lord Zier after they contract vampirism under his in his forces. There are other heroes who've gone out there that don't have that same level of protection. Who've gone out there trying to stop Lord Zir, trying to stop
o porquê que seu personagem não foi pego é porque você tem o sangue da Lilith ainda, né?
The blood cults and to Lord Zir's forces that way. And for those characters, now you've got vampiric sorceresses, you've got vampiric barbarians, you've got these blood seekers out there looking to kill you, the player. So as you're progressing through, you'll be dealing with enemy rogues, you'll be dealing with enemy druids and necromancers.
Aí eu achei da hora, hein?
And dealing with their specific like spells and kits that we.
Só pra deixar claro, gente, agora vão ter NPCs que são vampiros, esses daqui que estão mostrando.
You know, they drop. They have a really, really good chance to drop.
E são das classes normais do jogo, tá? Bárbaro, mago. Eles vão te caçar. É praticamente um PVP light, entendeu?
Unlock new ones that are available through the Vampiric Power UI. So really, whenever you find Bloodseekers, you want to take them out because they are, first, they're pretty fun to fight. They're a little challenging, but they also have the ability to give you big upgrades for your Vampiric powers, and they can jump you too, right? So like we make sure Bloodseekers are. You'll find them in the world, particularly like in Blood Harvest. We'll talk about that again. I keep saying we'll talk about things in a minute.
Você acha os caras, tipo assim, eles estão no mundo, mas
to get them to fight them in Blood Harvest. But you can also find them in dungeons and stuff too, right?
Yeah, so you can see them in the overworld, but they will also invade you in dungeons. So don't let them catch you slipping. They will be all over, finding you when you least expect it.
Yeah. So you just as you're passing through a dungeon, you will have a barbarian jump on you, whirlwind. They'll be all trying to slow you down.
Mano, achei foda. O que eu gostaria que tivesse o esqueminha de invasão que nem no Dark Souls. Que imagina você invadir o jogo dos outros, como você sendo um Bloodseeker ali. Ia ser muito foda. Não vai vir.
Blood Harvest is really the way that we're representing that. Starting right at level 1, you'll find that Lord Zir's minions have taken over broad swaths of the 5 zones in Sanctuary. And
olha, já fizeram, chama Greed is Good.
Like his minions out there trying to like drain blood from a variety of different.
Bom não, bom é uma bosta.
There's that emergency alert
that we talked about.
There we go. Now everyone gets to experience this together. And my phone as well.
Gente, esse Greed is Good. Tem gente jogando?
These activities are active.
Mais do que Dark and Darker.
Marching across Sanctuary, taking people hostage, taking them prisoner, draining them of blood.
Esse sino é lá, tá? Tá tendo alguma coisa lá que eles falaram no começo que eu não prestei atenção.
So, what's the difference between Blood Harvest and Helltide?
Sure, that's a great question, Antonio.
Qual a diferença do Blood Harvest para Helltide?
Some similarities to the way that things are working in Helltide. The difference here is that, first of all, it's available right away at level 1, as you're progressing. But also,
no nível 1,
there's always a Blood Harvest active across Sanctuary at any given time. Like, when a Blood Harvest ends in one location somewhere in Sanctuary, a new one's going to pop up as Lord Zir's forces now move to a new location. And
a maré de vampiro.
About Blood Harvest, it's a little bit.
Isso, horário do governo. Obrigado, Rod.
Is that as you're kind of going through and playing, you're going to be earning a couple of new materials that you don't get elsewhere, and that is you're going to be able to earn bloodlures.
A maré de vampiro acontece desde o primeiro e ela tá sempre ativa na temporada. Não é que nem a maré que tem um tempo, ela fica fora, depois ela volta. Então ela vai estar sempre ativa e já é legal, dá pra farmar rápido.
And one of the cool things about this is that these materials that you're collecting, these currencies that you need to kind of like do some of these activities, these don't disappear at the end of a blood harvest. So as you collect them, they stay with you from that point forward. So there's not limited progress in that way. Yeah, here's an example of a player going and using blood lures to summon a few of the blood seekers in combat.
Aí os blood seeker, mano.
And then whirlwinding accordingly. But the
sorte que era bárbaro, que se fosse mago tinha morrido já. Dark and Darker falou, pô, Dark and Darker tomou um processinho, porque eles roubaram o código da Nexon e eles não podem lançar na Steam.
And as you do things in the Blood Harvest area, as you're killing Bloodseekers, as you are freeing prisoners, as you're completing new Blood Harvest-themed whispers that are also going to be active in those areas, you're going to be earning Hunter's Acclaim that will allow you to basically go and earn a number of other rewards. Some of the vampiric powers that you want to unlock for your character are available through the system. A few of them, and then there's lots of like potent blood you can get from the system, and then also gear as well as you're progressing through. So there's
eu tô gostando do que eu tô vendo, hein, velho.
Players to do. It's we're really excited to see how they level up in this experience.
você ganha o... Termina Blood Harvest e você pode trocar o que você consegue por...
That's absolutely right. You'll still see Hell Tides as well, but you'll also see higher level Blood Harvest as you get into like World Tiers 3 and 4.
Awesome. So we got a lot.
E Helltide não sai,
Season 2.
Bloodseeker
Season 2 also has
é um infectado vampírico, mas que ele é de uma classe padrão. Então Ladino, Bloodseeker, Mago, Bárbaro. Eles têm os mesmos poderes que você, entendeu?
Quickly brought up like before the stream actually started, which was
O Rods, pelo que eles mostraram até agora, mano, se eu não tivesse comprado o Diablo, eu já tava jogando dinheiro na tela de novo.
Like what the new endgame boss system is going to be for players that do want to kind of experience that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right that first and foremost, this is content we're adding to the Eternal Realm as well as the Seasonal Realm from this point forward.
Yes.
We're repeating.
Bloodseeker é o Butcher contra o nome.
But there's actually, I think I have a handy dandy chart, a very designery chart to help players understand kind of what we're talking
bosses,
about here.
Vamos lá.
So what you see here is the way that we kind of look at the content progression of Diablo IV, the way the players are playing through the experience, the sorts of activities they engage with as they play at various
like
stages.
in Season 1, right?
Yeah, in pre-season and Season 1. Yeah. So yeah, you can think of it in that way.
Temporada 1 e pre-season isso aqui,
150 experience, obviously you're leveling up initially, maybe you're going through the campaign for the first time, you're progressing through, eventually you get out of World Tiers 1, 2 and get into World Tier 3 after you finish the capstone.
Bosses,
Here you get to do, you have higher level whispers to
Nightmare
do.
Dungeon, Capstone Dungeon 2.
For the first time, you get exposed to Helltide for the first time. World boss get a little bit tougher, Legion events get a little bit tougher, and we're making some changes there as well. And then eventually you get into World Tier 4, now you're getting your ancestral items, and you continue to move on through Nightmare Dungeon.
Ele quebrou o barricado do cavalo, é verdade, Matheus, bem lembrado.
Echo of Lilith, potentially, if that's one of your goals for yourself, and you try to take her out. So that's kind of like what we had in place right at launch, not even thinking about Season 1 necessarily, but that's like what the end game sort of looks like. It's a lot of Nightmare Dungeons, a lot of Helltide, right? And we've heard a lot of feedback from players, and also from our experiences playing the game. That players are looking for
isso não, isso daqui é o que tem hoje.
They're looking for more like things to farm, ways to make their characters powerful.
Isso é o que tem hoje, gente, que está sendo mostrado aqui agora.
Part of the Season of Blood, and we can show that here. So now, when the player gets into World Tier 3, there's 2 new bosses for them, or 1 returning boss for them to go and engage with. The first is Echo of Varshan, our
Duriel vai virar o chefão?
Is back in Season 2. No. Hunt down in order to kill, to get various craft materials they can use to summon other bosses later, but also specifically to get uniques that only drop from Varshan. So every one of the bosses that we add as part of the Season of Blood is going to have their own distinct loot list associated with them, with unique items, and there are some cosmetic rewards as well that we'll be able to talk about in a little bit.
Todos os bosses agora tem lista, tem drop list.
Now on this board here, you can see that I kind of like connect the dots in terms of where these things come from.
Sleep, sinceramente, melhor esperar o Diablo 5. Enquanto você espera, me divirto.
There's chances for you to find like malignant creatures as you're completing whispers in the overworld. They have rare chances to occur, and you'll also be able to get these new malignant body parts you need from completing Whisper bounty turn-ins.
Mas assim, pode esperar, tá? Fica de boa.
Whisper run, there's a chance for you to have one of the pieces that you need to summon Varshan, reconstitute him. Because in the Season of Blood, there are new layers.
Agora na Whisper vai vir os ecos de Varshan.
The layer for Varshan is in a kind of a corrupted hollow, malignant hollow beneath the Tree of Whispers.
E ele tem a drop list, né?
Down in where you're able to fight some awesome malignant creatures. No malignant hearts dropping, but malignant creatures certainly down there. And at the end of that small dungeon...
Cara, eu concordo. Eu acho que deveria vir trade. Eu não acho que vem trade tão já.
To be able to summon Varshan back from the dead to fight him for the special loot that he has. Now, one of the new creatures that we're adding is this the Galvanic Saint.
Gente,
we'll show off some of the new arc.
O que eles estão falando é o seguinte, agora,
but this is a new,
quando chegar,
boss,
tipo 50, 70, você tem 2 chefes que são target, que tem, você pode ir lá pra farmar uns lendários deles, que eles têm um loot pool, sabe? Ao contrário dos outros que cai qualquer coisa, o Varshan e o Grigor vai cair coisas. Então, o Grigor tá na Helltide, o Varshan tá nas Whispers, ou seja, agora compensa fazer a Árvore dos Lamentos.
All the class changes and itemization updates that are happening as part of the season. It's worth pointing out that several of the bosses in this chain have they are very elementally themed in terms of their attacks. So you should be looking for like lightning resist explicitly if you're trying to farm Grigor.
Mostrou pouquinho, Arthur, das skins.
Cold resist to find from the Beast of Ice later. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So that's World Tier 3. This is a way for you to get some of those build-defining unique.
E ele já tá dando uma dica assim, esses chefes causam dano elemental pesado.
So now we're talking about World Tier 4 for a second. So you've got into World Tier 4. Echo Varshan is now still
Dia 17, Serizawa.
in World Tier 4, where he drops
17 agora,
extra versions of those same unique items. And the Galvanic Saint is also available for players to fight to get ancestral versions of those unique items. So those are still there. Additionally, when you kill Varshan and when you kill the Galvanic Saint in World Tier 4, they drop summoning components that you need in order to summon Duriel, King of Maggots, who is a new level 100 boss that we're adding.
É tipo as máquinas infernais, caralho.
Who has a chance to drop unique items as
Pra invocar o Duriel, você precisa
What does that mean? Like,
matar o Varshan e o Galvanic Saint lá, o Grigor.
Low chance. There's already a low chance. So.
Então assim, você tem que farmar os chefes pra poder poder invocar o Duriel, e o Duriel tem chance de cair os Uber únicos.
That have Uber uniques after this goes live, and there's a way for you to farm them specifically from going after Duriel, right? It is still not every time you kill Duriel, you're gonna get an Uber unique item. They are still very rare relative to other item types.
Porque compensa fazer a Árvore dos Lamentos, porque durante a árvore você pode invocar o Varshan e matando ele você tem chance de Uber lendários e uma lista de drop, e você consegue pegar o material para invocar o Duriel agora.
Two other bosses that I didn't talk about too much. The first is the Beast in Ice. So the Beast in Ice is a new.
Vai ter o invocador dele, sim.
Go and summon after you start completing Nightmare Dungeons higher than Tier 30. So Tier 31 plus Nightmare Dungeons, 85-ish monsters and so on from there. As you fight and complete these Nightmare Dungeons, there's chances for the components that you need to drop at the end of the Nightmare Dungeon you'll be able to use to make a new special Nightmare Dungeon key that explicitly brings you to the Beast in Ice's lair. So that is
mesma coisa com as Nightmare Dungeon a partir do nível 31. Começa a dropar o material para você invocar a besta de gelo.
And then lastly, for the new boss we're adding with the season, is we talked about Lord Zir already. While you will be able to confront like a story version of Lord Zir as you go through the quest line in World Tiers 1 and 2, there is a much more difficult, challenging version of Lord Zir that you'll fight in World Tier 4 once you're ready for that content. And you'll be able to access and summon forth Lord Zir this way as you kill world bosses in Season 4 and as you kill, in Season 2 rather, Season 4. As you kill world bosses, yeah, I know, I really am. As you kill world bosses in World Tier 4, and as you complete Legion events in World Tier 4, you'll be able to gather these materials forward and bring them to go and summon Lord Zir.
Mano,
so, couple extra
é isso, velho.
O
cara meteu temporada 4 ali. O cara já tá em 2077 já.
These new bosses. Yeah, okay. You see Grigor summoning in for the first time. Very excited for players to go and do that fight. The Beast in Ice.
Oh, pera aí, a besta de gelo é o Diablo Azul?
Duriel, King of Maggots.
Nossa, Duriel, como eu odiava esse cara no 2, velho.
So yeah, these three we still have Lord Zir. We don't want to show off the boss fight just yet.
Cara, não, Rune Words eles não prometeram pra essa temporada, gente.
A version of him in the quest line and a much more difficult version of him later. But one other thing worth calling out as part of this, the materials that players are going to be.
Então, Darth, é o que eu espero também. O dano elemental que mate.
First, if you've got friends, you can try to farm these components up together and use that as a way to more quickly access these fights and get more chances and opportunities to get some loot off these.
Não, sim. Não, cara, Rune Words vai vir uma hora ou outra.
Players as well. So if you've got
Duriel tá do caralho, né, velho?
You don't have the other half, you can go on trade chat and try to find the remaining components. Spend the gold necessary to maybe exchange for those things.
Os componentes podem ser trocados.
They have overfarmed the materials that you need to summon, and you got the items you're really looking for early enough. Now you have a chance to go and take those and maybe sell those off, to make a tidy profit for yourself, so you can have an easier time enchanting items and other things as you go.
Exactly. Make friends.
Rune Words são as runas que no Diablo 2 você colocava em uma ordem e trocava completamente o item. Quality of Life ainda não, Rod.
Specific uniques on them that you can target.
That's right. So if you're looking for a particular unique item in the game, and we've added a lot of unique items in Season 2
não vai ser acrescentado, é uma nova mecânica, Jonas. Eles falaram um pouco, mas eles vão falar mais sobre isso. São pactos que você adiciona no... É quase Rune Words, tá?
Yeah, and what we're seeing here is just like some of the kind of like almost exclusive items
Mano,
that
tô
you can
gostando.
find off of some of these bosses that within the 5 of them on their drop.
Esses daqui são os
But
itens
then,
que
like Joe
exclusivos dos chefes, tá?
mentioned, you can find unique items off of them, and Uber Duriel has the opportunity of dropping Uber uniques, and yes, you will find people and know people that and may find yourself
Já pode hypar, pode hypar.
like actual Uber uniques with this season for and going.
Vai ficar
forward,
algumas
because, again,
mecânicas
this
da
is
Season
Eternal
1,
Realm,
só
and
o
this is
Varshan.
in every season going forward. and
De
we'll be
resto
adding
vai
more
ser
to
meio que
it.
tudo jogado fora.
And I know a lot of people have
Cosmético
been asking
farmável?
about, unique items.
Sim,
Hey,
porque são os itens, né? Tipo, depois que você pega o item, você pode...
Unique items. I just want to note, like, because we had been talking about the stream on October 10th, where that stream where we just have a lot to talk about.
Começa dia 17, obrigado, Will.
But on October 10th, we're talking more about class balance changes. We're also talking about unique item.
Para jogar temporada 2 precisa ter 2.500 horas na temporada 1, sim.
Every unique item is getting some
Corações vão pro lixo? Vai.
in Diablo 4, and we're actually going to be talking more about that on the 10th.
Ô, gente, temporada,
These unique
você
items
não
are
guarda
going to
nada,
be,
tá?
You know, big things to actually kind of hunt for players when they are fighting these specific bosses. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about today. We'll have more to talk
Vai
about.
ter que fazer tudo que tem no game. Sim, eu adorei isso aí, ô Knight.
On the 10th with Adam Jackson.
Adorei
and,
isso daí,
some
cara.
of the damage bucket changes. Like I know we have like
Porque antes não compensava fazer um monte de coisa, né? Agora meio que você tem que fazer, velho.
kind of adjusted.
Yeah.
And
Sem nova
kind of what
classe,
we mentioned
gente.
in prior streams,
Não esperem
that
nova
will
classe
all
tão
be
cedo.
happening on the 10th. But we got to hear a little bit about the bosses here. Now we do want to talk about some of the gameplay updates and some changes that are coming to Diablo 4, which is a huge list that we actually do have. So it's going to take us be prepared. We got a lot of slides and a lot to discuss here. But
Mandado pro Reino Eterno? Não, só o Varshan, ô Jonathan.
kind of get
As
through all
mecânicas
of
dos
them,
corações
sure.
não vão pro Reino Eterno.
And a lot of this, and I do want to like preface
Volta pro Adam a câmera, né?
things we've heard within the community feedback, and also just changes that we most definitely want
Scrollscape
to make a better
pro
experience for
hardcore,
players,
né?
especially as we were going through preseason and season 1. So, Joe, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, and so we can see I'm going to talk about Scroll Escape here. I just wanted to mention we're seeing some of the images of some of the mount and some of those item art.
Oh, yeah.
Those are also new cosmetics that are exclusive to you can get
Então
from
tudo que a gente faz na Season 2 pode ir tudo pro lixo na temporada? Sim.
Exclusively dropped.
Ô, gente, é assim que funciona o jogo temporada, tá? Eu sei que, tipo, pra quem nunca jogou um Diablo na vida, vocês não estão ligados como funciona, mas é assim que funciona. Poi é assim, Diablo é assim, Last Epoch é assim. Todos são assim.
That's correct. Yeah.
Porque precisa reiniciar, entendeu?
We want to add more things for players to do once they get into these World Tier 3 and 4 content tiers. There's more updates we want to make to existing content types. We'll talk about some of those things today.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a lot more planned. This is sort of like the first step in like creating more interesting activities for players.
Não, PVP não espera guerra de nada do tipo, gente.
There's more fun things for players to do and engage in.
more for an endgame.
Yeah.
Não, os itens, sim, o seu personagem, os itens lendários, não, isso vai tudo pro Reino Eterno, isso é verdade, Rob.
Scroll Escape will now be consumed automatically if
Não, os equipamentos ficam, gente.
while
As
you're in
coisas
combat.
que você pega, tipo assim,
Because
corações
this is a
malignos, não.
consumable item. We feel pretty good about the case where people are, and disconnecting on purpose. You're still going to consume that item, so we feel pretty good about this change. And it always sucks to die to a disconnect in hardcore.
Never fun.
Incenses, which are the party-wide version of elixirs, of course, will now grant a bonus
Incenso
to
que
experience, and they will persist through death.
Agora incenso compensa, agora vale a pena
Now,
fazer
this
incenso.
this is a big one.
PVP é cota no Diablo 4, é.
Different experience changes that we're going to go over here. You're going to see a few different references to different experience changes. One of the things, and if you're playing Season 1, you'll notice that we
Vamos pro faixa XP de novo, gente.
adjustments to experience in Season 1 as well. That's sort of all
Cheirar incenso pra caramba agora, né? Sim.
with some changes to how experience is calculated in terms of which things are multiplicative. So The way this will work is, in general, you've got different kinds of experience bonuses. So you've got maybe a bonus from incenses that we just added, for example. You've got other experience bonuses maybe from seasonal blessings.
E agora é multiplicativo, não é aditivo.
Together in a bucket, and then be multiplicative with your World Tier bonus. This means that these experience bonuses will be much more impactful in Season 2 than they were in Season 1.
XP bufado geral.
Cumulatively, as I said, there are a number of different experience bonuses here. And cumulatively, your time, compared to Season 1,
o mapa fica tudo liberado, o Walter. Fica, não. Tudo liberado, não precisa fazer
about
nada.
40% faster to reach level 100
than it was in Season 1. Yeah, in Season 2. This is,
why would we do that?
Prefiro.
Well,
agora
we found that
eles bufaram o XP. Agora é 40% mais rápido para você chegar no nível 100.
Changes that add more content to do as you're leveling up. We also want players to be able to get to level 100. It's a goal that many players set for themselves, and it should be an achievable goal. And so in Season 1, we saw that there were some players who were getting frustrated. You maybe get to level 75, and you're like, I want there to be more things to do.
Eu tava falando o seguinte, na primeira temporada, gente,
we really wanted to smooth that over.
Tinha tanta pouca coisa pra você fazer que a galera chegava no nível 70. Eu mesmo não cheguei no nível 100. Chegava no nível 70 e falava, foda-se. E abandonava.
And of course, along the way, you're going to be having a lot more cool stuff to do with all of the boss ladder stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, give you good changes. I'm very excited about this.
So, as I said, we'll talk more about other changes to experience as we go through this. But moving on for the moment, when you skip the campaign to jump into the world, as many players do at the start of a season, you're going to have more waypoints that start unlocked.
Tá, quando você pular a campanha e começar a temporada, a gente vai ter mais
to unlock waypoints as you're going. It's
mais
not every
waypoints.
single waypoint, but it's key strategic waypoints that are related to places that you want to go and are centrally located.
Yeah, make it a little bit easier to get around to like whispers that are in rotation as you're.
Não, o que você descreveu foi o New World.
There are some other changes. There's kind of a suite of changes. I was just talking
O
about.
renome vai permanecer, tipo, pelo menos a parte importante vai permanecer, o Bruno.
To sort of town efficiency, and this is the first one we're going to talk about some more in a little bit.
3 personagens nível 100, caralho, Michel.
I know this is one that's close to Joe's heart in particular. Renown rewards will now.
O multiplicativo, na verdade, ele é que ele mudou como ele calcula.
You can still earn renown.
Que hoje, se você usar um incenso não, né? Mas se você usar um elixir, você tem um bônus aditivo ali no total. E não faz muita diferença no final das contas. Agora ele é multiplicativo junto com outros bônus. Bônus de jogar em grupo e tudo mais. Então, agora tem. Se você estiver jogando em grupo com incenso e com elixir, você vai ganhar muito mais XP. E multiplica com o nível do mundo, exato. Obrigado, hein?
On any character, you're going to have that reward automatically when you create your new character in Season 2, and this applies to all of those obols. It applies to skill points.
Agora não tem mais aquela gambiarra de ter que fazer as campanhas com o personagem mais alto.
I feel like you have to go do every single side quest over again to get all of the stuff.
Yeah, and this is something it's a really good point, Antonio, because when we are talking about these general improvements, what these came from is a lot like us,
exatamente, Rod.
The dev team.
Agora vai tudo farmável.
Before, but it's really important playing the game and then reading feedback from players, feedback on social, feedback
bárbaro hardcore 50
from videos, everything.
Mago, credo.
And really looking at like
Druida 50, Necro 50. Olha que falta esse Necro podia estar 100zinho, né?
Because we talked,
mas o Ladino 100 é do caralho.
Our goal is to continue making the game more fun for players, right? And so this is really
começa dia 17,
sort of
gente.
the result of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think making sure that players have more choices when they are able to log into their seasonal character right away and not feel that they've got this oppressive goal of needing to
ficar liberando dificuldade novamente.
I think is really healthy and good for the experience.
Walter,
for players, people that, like, just
a dificuldade você vai ter que liberar, porque é por personagem.
You're not going to need to log in like you did last time.
Eu sinto lhe dar essa notícia, mas você vai ter que jogar o jogo.
You're just going to have them on the future characters.
That's right, yeah. And,
cara, o Rods, esse é o problema. O Ladino é tão rápido, ele é tão bom de movimentar que dá até vergonha de jogar com
right. Let's go to the next bullet.
Vai ter matchmaking? Não.
Overworld monsters, yes. So this relates to another change we're going to talk about in a little bit. But overworld monsters will now match your player level in World Tiers 3 and 4. I know that this is in preseason it worked this way, and we ran into some challenges with the game not feeling like you were getting upgrades that really felt powerful, and players rightly called that out. Like, look, I want to get powerful new items, and then I want to smash monsters.
Yeah,
and
you want to feel more powerful.
O que ele tá falando é o seguinte,
so this change,
o nível dos monstros no
makes
mundo.
These monsters on par with your level. And this is based on reviewing Season 1. But it's coupled with some other changes that
Então, depois que você tá no 75 já
does feel meaningful and powerful.
só falta cobrindo parte do texto, você sobrevive, hein?
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more later on.
All right.
And of course, at the end of Season 1, your
Jogadores casuais vai melhorar? Ô Everton, que vai melhorar, vai. Agora, jogador casual não faz nem a temporada. Então, assim, o lance é a temporada.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to note is like when characters are migrating from season 1.
Peraí que eu tenho que ficar na cabeça
we
do...
actually have all that information that's going to be posted immediately after this live stream. We have a huge blog that will be...
Tô obrigadíssimo pelo Prime.
About everything in season 2. And so all the details about how
Olha o Franquito.
How that works will be
Jogo morto, mas a empresa tá dando suporte. E o Lost Ark, Franquito? Como é que tá a Amazon lá?
And it's very similar to that. But all that information will be on a blog afterwards.
Yeah, we'll go into detail about what happens with their items and how they carry over.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of great info there.
Ô, gente, quem não segue o Franquito?
Towns. Yeah, towns and vendors. Yeah.
Battlefield 2042 tem suporte até hoje. Nossa, é verdade, pior que tem, né?
And that's like really a focus of ours as we kind of move forward.
Mano, pior que não mesmo, né, Franquito?
By the tree of whispers. So when you go back and you turn in your whispers, there are additional functions you can perform right there without having to like fly off.
Agora o cultista tem na árvore dos lamentos, beleza.
For the loop. We've gone through, we've added stashes much more.
Nossa, agora tem baú nas cidadezinhas.
So any small town with a waypoint attached to it, it's going to have a stash near it as well now. So just more opportunities to drop things off or pick things up as you're out there playing, either while you're leveling up a character from 1 to 50 and you just are finding things you want.
Agora tem baú perto dos vendedores, nice.
You're finishing whispers and things nearby.
Lost Ark, cadê a porra do PTBR, mano? Lost Ark Malemar tem inglês hoje em dia. Comecei a jogar Diablo 4 e já me considero tryhard. Mandaram outro vídeo, outro veio embora? Contrataram outro... Peraí, não entendi nada, Franquito. Vai ter matchmaking, Diego? Resposta de novo, não.
Tucked themselves away in a distant corner of a lot of the capital cities throughout Sanctuary.
Nossa, agora o vendedor, a cadela vai estar mais próxima. Em vez de estar no canto.
For Kyovashad, like the Purvey of Curiosities is now like right in the town. You know, so it's just a lot easier to spend your mobiles as you're accruing them, and it's harder for you to forget that you have mobiles, for example.
Movida a blog, mano. Chaves, é muito isso, cara.
Yeah, become more
muito isso, velho.
With the rest of the people in town. Yeah.
It's like he realized his shady dealings aren't.
Baú pra todo lado. Mano, eu tô adorando o que eu tô vendo, velho.
Yeah, the law is a rough construct in many ways in Sanctuary. So in this way, that they're back in the good graces.
And I know, like, because we've heard players like, hey, spending time, they spend a lot of time in town, obviously. Like, if they're going to be at the blacksmith or at the purveyor or at the occultist or anything, this is now going to just help make that a little bit more efficient, especially if they're going between different...
Já deveria ter no lançamento, já?
Now find stashes everywhere, and a lot of it was, thanks to the feedback from players on that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So I think that's about it for towns and vendors. There's plenty more stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Want to talk about mounts?
Yes, we should talk about mounts. Yeah. This was something that we talked about before. This is something that...
Mano, tipo, que nem falou, qualidade de vida, né, gente? É coisa que a gente sabe que é coisa pequena, mas é legal.
That's a post. Yeah.
And we've had a lot of people ask about this ever since that post, and we mentioned that it'd be something that's coming in season 2. So do you want to go through all our changes coming from mounts?
Yeah, let's take a look at them.
Acho que agora não. Porque cada não tem mais um... Como chama o Paragon que nem tinha no 3. Então, você não leva XP extra pro Reino Eterno, gente. Mano, eu tô muito no hype, Luiz.
The mount is gonna much less frequently come to a slow down dramatically.
Agora eles vão pular, não, que o meu cavalo parecia um cadeirante, né, velho? Eu tava jogando com o professor Xavier.
Just like your player, but we're a little bit finicky about it.
They were very finicky.
I think some people didn't. In practice, they didn't always.
Na prática, eles nem sempre pulavam a Joe. Sério. Mano, meu cavalo não sabia o que era pular uma poça d'água, mano.
We also increased the base movement speed of mounts. This means that traveling on your mount in town, for example, will be faster. We didn't increase the top speed of the boost, so the maximum boost speed is still the same, but your base movement speed.
E agora você dá um tapinha no cavalo, você quebra as barricadas. Obrigado, Jesus. Ajuda no Diablo. Cavalo Speed Racer. Não, mas eu ainda acho que se tiver de ladino, é mais rápido andar a pé mesmo, tá? Eu ainda acho que o ladino é mais rápido. Agora, se tiver de necromante, meu irmão, agradeça que tem cavalo.
It was sort of finicky. You really had to have the mouse cursor at the edge of the screen to get full speed, and if you had a little bit farther away, you kind of felt like, well, am I actually at full speed? Like, so you really.
O cavalo pulava, mas só quando desliga o jogo.
Because of course, when you're riding through the world, you want to be going as fast as you can, right? And so we made a change here. We didn't.
O jegue tá envenenado.
Some players have suggested like, let's just make it binary. I should be at full speed all the time. But we made a change that.
Ô, Cefiro, eu concordo.
The cursor
mudar a skill de salto.
About allowing you to be at full speed. It's about half or so of the screen. Beyond that, it'll be at full speed. And so you really have to have the cursor close to your mount if you do want to slow down. And because it is still handy for navigating.
Dá para subir o meu webcam? Dá. Vou fazer isso? Não.
It's a big improvement for mouse and keyboard users there.
Yeah, it just makes the mount a little less, a little easier to use.
Só tem uma por classe só, e é automática. Eu acho bem ruimzinho.
You don't have to have the mouse as far away and be planning your path at the very edge of the screen constantly.
Bárbaro zoando o cadeirante é feio.
When they're moving in the game, it's usually a bit closer to their
Meu cavalo usava skin de preguiça, é foda.
So yeah, feels really good.
I think between the faster mount and moving the important things closer to the waypoint.
Renegado é a classe do cavalo.
That's the 40%.
That is 41%. Those experience changes are.
Mano, a skill do salto do Bárbaro é muito bosta, cara. Eu acho que a única que presta é do ladino de salto.
As Adam was
o resto é tudo.
Like, town efficiency is also something that players care a lot about, right? So I mentioned the speed, the spur. This is your speed boost on the mount. We increased the duration. The rate at which you
Mas não causa dano, não.
Charges.
Mas é legal.
So that means
só animação. Legal é animação.
You're going to be able to be boosted a lot more of the time.
Yeah, way more spur up time.
Yeah, quite. It's close to 100%. I think it's pretty significant.
Yep.
And of course, this is great because those pesky barricades that would previously
agora você pode atropelar.
Can be broken through, so you don't need to dismount unless you want to.
Right. Look at this fancy in slide video. Just added. Like the quality of the production has just gone up. Just as oh, look at this.
We got some production value
there. Fancy.
So you can see the player boosting through the barricade there. You also see the player.
Eles aprenderam a usar o PowerPoint, gente.
Skill. And we have some changes related to that as well. So some cool.
As skills fizessem mínimo de mudança, são bonitas, mas não fazem nada. Sim.
As Adam mentioned, I posted.
Passou a barricada para desmontar 5 metros para frente.
And
o cooldown diminuiu. Aí sim. 3 segundos para skill. Aí sim.
Cooldown before you can mount again. It just feels sort of arbitrary, like. Why that's like slowing down the game for no reason.
Que teve de interessante agora, mano, muita coisa. É muita coisa. Daqui a pouco a gente vai o resumão, gente.
Found that while it was cool, what was even better is just reducing the base cooldown of the mount across the board. So mount cooldown goes down from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. If you're taking a lot of damage,
3 segundos a skill de desmontar. Quando você tá andando no cavalo e pula para desmontar, agora em 3 segundos você já pode puxar o cavalo de novo.
And as I mentioned, the dismount combat skill, like this is a really cool skill. We want it to feel like players can use it and feel powerful. So this is actually the cool up on it. When you jump onto your mount, there's a few seconds before you can use it, and 10 seconds felt way too long, so we reduced it to 3.
Yeah, it's much more fun to like just get on your mount, and if you see a pack of creatures.
No Diablo 3 o pulo barba atravessa o mapa, no Diablo 4 não atravessa uma poça.
Right away, as opposed to having to like wait. You just end up not using it.
I would like make circles around attacks, you know.
If you have like 2 seconds left or something.
Ou uma bolsa extra pro cavalo ia ser legal mesmo, hein?
Yeah, exactly.
Give me a little bit.
Just wait, it's happening, I promise. Yeah. So.
Yeah, very cinematic, but not as fun.
Awesome. So I know now. Oh,
God.
Wow. Okay.
Mano, alguém aprendeu a usar esses efeitos e colocou todos aí.
They're just smiling back there as they make these like crazy swipes between transitions. But we are now going to talk about some changes coming for Nightmare Dungeons.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So we.
Dungeons do Pesadelo, gente. Eu preciso encher meu copo de coca, mas não tô conseguindo parar, porque os caras não param.
Finally, this is what I'm here for.
This is the moment.
This is what I work on. So, yeah, we have tons of changes for Nightmare Dungeons coming this season. The very first big change that we have is
agora teleporta direto pra dentro do coisa.
From the map. We'll take the
mano, eu tô esperando pra encher o copo de coca, não consigo, mano.
Instead of to the dungeon entrance. This will cut down on
então, Rui, nossa, eu tô adorando.
Screens, when you just want to go and play
transitions.
More, like grind more Nightmare Dungeons and get your Paragon points up.
Mano, não tem jeito, né, cara? Todo mago parece que
This will be a pretty popular
não interessa se ele se ele é homem ou mulher, ele parece mulher, velho. Não tem jeito.
Yeah, getting rid of this extra load screen, I think is going to be a huge boon for me. So I'm supportive.
Ganhamos 10 segundos de farm, mano.
All right. Okay, and it's funny enough. What is our stream software thing that we use? vMix. People are claiming
estou no vMix.
PowerPoint. It's actually through vMix. So credit to the.
Os caras estão falando no chat que você estava usando o PowerPoint, não, estão usando o vMix.
All right, sorry for interrupting. There you go.
Moving on.
O mago é unissex, é ótimo.
So our dungeon events
não é binário.
Density now. And also, more importantly, in higher world tiers, your NPCs will no longer get one shot. So they will not
melhorar os eventinhos, obrigado.
Be hopeless when you're trying to defend someone from an onslaught of monsters.
Yeah, in general, I think this is going to be great for just increasing the perceived efficiency of dungeon events across the board.
Right, right.
It's pretty like, my friends and I are like, oh, okay, well, your friends and you are going to be okay. Like, I'm just going to leave.
Respeito o magoelo.
Dungeon events a lot just between the seasons and player feedback to make sure that they're fun.
Evento toda hora, monstro pra caralho, pra não dar toda. É bem isso.
And this is kind of one of those things that we saw. We're like, yeah, we could.
É que assim, é um jogo, é repetitivo, né, gente?
Yeah, so next we have traps.
Boa tarde,
in our dungeons. The overall readability has been improved, and the crowd control on the player has been reduced. Look at that slow motion.
Slow motion action shot.
So it will be easier to see these, and more importantly, when you do get hit by them, you are not CC'd long enough to where you will just instantly die.
Eu vou falar a verdade, eu não achava isso daí ruim, não. As armadilhas, assim, eu não achava ruim, não, mas... diminuir o crowd control que você toma, tá?
On the traps, right?
Right. We're talking about just CC across the board.
Tem seus problemas, mas sabe apreciar alguém é completamente diferente dos gringos que só reclamam nos fóruns. Mano, a galera se esforça muito pra jogar videogame, né? Em vez de só jogar e se divertir, não tá se divertindo, vai jogar outra coisa. Mas não, a galera quer reclamar.
Going back and restarting the Nightmare Dungeon because you died.
Right, and this is really valuable with increased density, of course, because there are more monsters on screen.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a pretty extensive amount of changes coming for CC. So when players get a chance to check out the patch notes and everything, they'll see the full.
Esse maguinho saiu do poi, hein? Eu vi.
Yeah, very cool. All right.
instant
What else we
replay
got?
quality footage.
Yeah, I do love this
I
footage.
can't get enough of it.
Yep. Oh, fragments. Interesting. I wonder what those are.
And also, our Paragon glyph experience has been increased. This sort of falls in line with like the 40%
Gráficos tiveram downgrades,
leveling
Rods.
to 100. You also will get
Downgrade só acho que teve downgrade quem nunca programou uma linha de código na vida.
Your Paragon scales effectively with
Tem
it.
que abrir o Bard aqui, gente. Pera aí, rapidão.
Faster.
That's it, though, right? Oh no, wait. There's a whole other section.
No, there's more stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, then sure.
You can't
Talk
have
about...
Nightmare Dungeons without the afflictions,
That's
right?
true. Talk about afflictions.
So we have a number of changes to some of our afflictions. We are constantly like looking at these and evaluating player feedback. The first one up that I have to talk about.
E vou colocar minha câmera aqui.
So what it used to be was when a monster attacked you from behind, it just did a set increase in damage, which led to a lot of cases where players were getting one shot, right? So we changed this so that the close monster attack from behind will now cause you to become vulnerable, and then that vulnerable damage that you take is increased on a scaling metric. So the higher the dungeon tier, the more damage that you will take. This gives you a little bit more opportunity to have a bit of counterplay. It's not just all
Ativava em
of a sudden
sequências e dos monstros ali dizendo, isso era verdade.
Play around this, you can react to it. If you manage to make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. You can strategize and pivot so that you don't end up just immediately dying.
Yeah, I mean, just that vulnerable condition there does give you that opportunity to sort of see, like, actually, look, yeah, my health globe is cracked now. Yeah, okay, I need to be more careful as I'm getting hit, because creatures can do a lot.
Caio, mano, é muito isso. É muito fiscal da diversão alheia.
For monster critical resist, now the monster attacks reduce the damage of your critical strike.
Oh, é verdade, hein, gente? Quantos likes a gente tem no YouTube?
And then this also scales by the dungeon tier. So
gente,
now if
dá pra vocês deixar o like no vídeo, hein? Porra! A gente podia chegar nos 200 pelo menos, né? Queria falar, não, mas podia.
Yeah, I mean, people would avoid this affliction particularly because it was
critical resist
damage overall because you didn't have any control over it either.
Right. And just in general, what we want to avoid are afflictions that are instant salvage, right? We don't want you to like look at your sigils and say, oh, I don't want to play that, and then just toss it every single time you see it. So this is sort of like a greater effort to make this a bit more fun, so you can see it and know that like it's going to be more difficult, but not unplayable.
Patch ia ser legal mesmo, viu?
Death Pulse. So we made some changes to Death Pulse. Now we prevent the death pulses from monsters that already have death explosions, like the lunatics. And we also
bichos que explodem não explodem duas vezes.
Each other or chaining with each other, so that you don't have to worry about an entire dungeon tile filling up with just death explosions that will one
shot. Vai fazer builds Mano, eu quero variedade de build também, viu? É uma das coisas que eu mais quero. Na verdade, uma das outras coisas que eu queria era chegar nos 200 likes no YouTube, né? Tudo bem, mas... Porque Deus tá vendo vocês aí, né? A galera, e a gente não deixaram
Lightning
like.
Storm. Being shocked while in a bubble grants 35% bonus movement speed for 5 seconds. This is a change coupled with the other changes where it only starts with when players are in combat, and it only starts when you have a direct path to the protection bubble. These holistic changes are...
Se tomar raio na cabeça, agora você anda mais rápido.
That Lightning Storm doesn't slow down your Nightmare Dungeon exploration. What we were seeing a lot was players...
Não, vou ficar cobrando mesmo, velho.
But when they had Lightning Storm, they had to like stop, run backwards, go hide in the bubble, wait, then make up that lost time.
Existe os rogue chora, né?
So the movement speed bonus helps you make up that lost time faster. And then these other two changes mostly focus on some of the more egregious examples where like a traversal is in between you and the bubble and you can't get to it in time, or for some reason it's just a little too far behind you and it's difficult to get to.
Concordo, Newton. Tem que chegar nos 300 likes mesmo.
That
Mas
you know
200
when
já tô
the lightning
feliz.
storm is going to happen, and you know there is a way to get to the bubble.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Se não reclamar, não tem, né? Não tem mudança.
Shade. The duration
Boa,
of the
Jade.
drifting shade has decreased from 5 seconds to 3 seconds. And
Nossa, esse drifting shade era chato, hein? Meu Deus do céu.
So similarly to Lightning Storm, we didn't
Gente,
want
esse update vai ser
where
gratuito,
the
tá?
drifting shade pops up and the players spend more of their time running
Souzário,
circles around
você continua
the
sobrevivendo
shade,
com a minha câmera aqui,
than
velho.
they do
Relaxa.
focusing on completing the dungeon itself. So this should make it a little bit easier for the dungeons for you to be able to navigate the dungeons.
Eu consigo pegar as dungeons diferentes sem ficar as mesmas. Ô, Rafa.
Yeah, that's great.
Cada tier tem um pool específico de dungeons.
So, this is, in addition to Nightmare Dungeons, this is also for our normal dungeons, but we changed some of the objectives for a handful of dungeons. You will see this in the Nightmare Dungeons for the season specifically.
Agora sim.
We removed the objectives so that now when you go into the dungeon...
Agora os objetivos chega no boss, mata
all you have
ele.
to do is really just go find the boss. You can focus on the critical path. There are dungeon events and other things going on that are optional.
Weber, algo novo de verdade até agora? Sim, vai ser em primeira pessoa a partir da terceira temporada.
Go straight to the boss. So we're trying out this change. We're going to see kind of how it works with the dungeons that we've implemented it on, and we're definitely keeping an eye out on player feedback to see how they like it.
I know Rax, who's watching, has a tear of joy sliding down his face right now. After hearing that, I'm sure.
Esconde a câmera, vai pegar a coca, mas aí eu perco a informação.
For the pool
classe nova.
This season, like we do every season, we...
Vou falar a verdade, já tem skin da Lilith no Call of Duty, né, velho? Então, vocês viram aqui primeiro.
So for the ones that do have objectives, we've changed them to limit backtracking even further.
Mano, o objetivo agora é achar o boss, velho.
Making the dungeons just feel too linear. So we found a good balance where the player can engage in the objectives and the content without having to spend so much time running back and forth, which also contributes to the 40% increase to get to level 100.
Mudaram de novo os esquemas das dungeons, que eu vou falar a verdade, eu já não achava que tava tão ruim, tá?
Season 2, in this first objective here, we had our elites that you
tem duas portas, deixa eu tirar aqui.
They were kind of off in the wings, and it created these really bad situations where
tem duas portas aqui, tá vendo? Tem uma aqui.
You realize too late that you missed one, you'd have to go all the way
Ele tá explicando o seguinte, antes você chegava aqui e você tinha, tipo assim, chegou aqui, mas tem que matar esses caras. Faltou um, você tinha que voltar, tudo. E agora eles colocaram uma porta aqui, você tem que matar todo mundo aqui e você volta pra cá.
Encounter them, and even if you do make a wrong turn, the penalty for getting back onto the critical path is not that significant. So it's like just less downtime in between reaching these objectives.
Eu vou falar uma coisa.
Next we have...
Eu prefiro limpar DG também, Ramon. É isso que eu falar. Eu entendo que a galera quer fazer isso pra farmar mais rápido.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Pra mim,
hold the slide.
Eu gosto de farmar dungeon, sabe?
Yes. So yeah, we've heard feedback from players. They're looking for more uptime on some of these events. They're looking for more opportunities to go and engage with this kind of content. So we made some changes as part of season 2.
Diminuir o cooldown dos eventos de legião.
Time between events has been reduced from 30 minutes to 25 minutes. They're going to be more. You'll find them more frequently as you're playing. This is great because you do want to go farm these to get the materials you need to go fight Lord Zir. Particularly when you're in World Tier 4.
E colocar os status do itens min-max possíveis, mas isso já tem no híbrido.
Duration of the warning timer. Moved that from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. One of the big reasons why we did this, and we did this in a few different places, but one of the reasons we did this is in situations
então, assim, aquela coisa, né? Essa da dungeon é foda, mas é verdade.
See that warning is up.
World Boss.
Don't try to chase that down.
Em vez de 6 horas, agora 3 horas e meia.
Minor issues here where like Legion event pins would not display at the edge of players' minimaps if a Whisper was active for that Legion event.
Gente, eu vou ter que pegar. Chegou meu negócio, rapidão.
Players to go after like a Legion event. It wasn't really showing up. We made the same change for world bosses. Now for world boss spawns, similarly we made another change here. We reduced the duration between uptimes for the world boss from 6 hours to 3.5 hours. So these are going to be much more available for players to find and chase down as they play.
Yeah, it was something that, you know, players have been talking about. Hey, I have a set schedule, or am I always at work when these world boss spawns occurs? So now there's more opportunities for players to end up getting their chance at a world boss, which is really good.
Yeah, likewise, we have increased the warning timer for these bosses from 30 minutes to 60 minutes to really let you know when they're about to start. You can go plan to go and hit these, because again, these have slightly higher drops for the Lord Zir fight, for example, and they still have good rewards attached to them as well. So those are up, and then we also made sure that there is now a message that's broadcast to all players when a world boss is 15 minutes away from spawning. So again, doubling down, making sure the players are aware that the world boss is about to kick off, so you don't have those situations where you just missed it because you didn't realize it was up. So we think that these are going to be some changes that are going to help that quite a bit.
All right. Endgame activities.
Yeah, let's go. I can just keep going from here. So one of the things we found in Whisper Cache is it used to be when you got into World Tier 3 and you're starting to get your first like sacred sigils and such, that when you finish Whisper Cache, you got effectively like the lowest sigil tier key from that tier, from that world tier. So now the way it's going to work is when you go and you turn in all your whispers and you get your new summoning materials for Varshan, and you also get a random nightmare sigil on turn-in, that sigil is always going to be within 5 levels of the highest nightmare dungeon you complete in that tier. So they're going to be more relevant for you based on your current progression as you continue to go. So I think that's going to be a fun change for players. The next, so I really want to hammer down this. So gold rewards from Whisper Caches have been really significantly increased, greatly increased.
Greatly increased. That's why it's in a different color. We want to very much emphasize greatly.
So if you're looking for gold for your build, whether you're trying to do like a massive respec of your character and you're looking for the chance to reroll many more times on an item to get exactly the affix that you're looking for, Whispers end up being a really great source of gold for you to continue to farm as you're getting into the end game, and remains so as you go. So it's going to be a really, really big change for you to be able to engage with as you play. And then, so next up, so I know Joe already talked about some of the changes we're making to experience in other places. Here, we've also made sure that like Whisper turn-ins, for all your bounties and the Helltide caches, the XP rewards from those moments are much more substantial in this point. We're okay with the idea that that nightmare dungeons remain a really great source of experience for players. That's fine. But we want to make sure that Whispers and Helltide features in particular are
Voltei, gente. O que eu perdi? Alguém me rebobina.
But now that there's also the addition of these summoning materials that you need from these content types, there are also other rewards, and then even gold.
Nightmare sigils.
Rewards that you're getting at the same time. So while experience from Whispers is really great, particularly on the 1 to 50, as you want to use more Whispers potentially to level up than you have in the past. There are advantages, no matter which way you want to go.
Experiência da árvore aumentou.
And then, some minor things here. So Whisper Caches, we're granting items from the that weren't always tied to the item slot associated with the cache. So we've gone through, we've made some changes on the loot side to ensure that won't be the case anymore. So if you go and you open a boots cache, then you're always going to get boots from that cache. So that's going to be a change. That's also that change.
Agora quando você compra, pega
as well. It shouldn't be
as caixas do Whisper, vem o que você pediu. Porque vinha coisa aleatória. Você pegava de bota, aí você recebia peitoral.
On the map to indicate their type. So if you're trying to figure out exactly where rings could be found or where you could find light weapons or whatever else, it's a little bit easier for you to find those things from the map level as you're looking.
Olha, vai ter um mapinha da Helltide mostrando onde estão os baús. Nice.
All right.
Não acho que vai mostrar os escondidos não, mas
UI and UX changes I know that we're putting into the game. Joe, do you want to take us through these?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, players.
Agora tem itens favoritos. Nice.
For a while now, and you can once an item is marked as junk, you can actually sell all junk in your inventory, which is pretty handy. But it's really sort of.
Helltide de Maré Infernal. Isso, Will.
Players have different ways.
Eu sei que é um negócio simples, tá? Mas, mano, tem um item favorito é bom ter, viu?
Or I want to do it in the field. And so we want to provide more flexibility for players who like to manage their inventory in different ways.
Não, mas o desmarcar o junk ali já tinha no jogo base, gente. Isso já não é novidade, não. O favorito, sim. Mas o coisa não, é velho.
When you use the sort button in your inventory or in your stash, the aspects that have
Agora
the
os
same power will now be
aspectos
sorted together so that they're easier to find.
Yeah. Helps
vão
out
ficar
lot more when
juntinhos.
you're trying to dig through exactly where things are.
Yeah.
This one is a little bit subtle. So when you're looking at the affixes that are listed on an item tooltip, so maybe you have strength and crit chance, something like that, the sorting of those affixes is now consistent within the type of affix that it is. So if you have two items that both have strength on them, the strength is going to appear in the same location vertically in the list of affixes. Which makes it a little bit easier to evaluate
when you're comparing
two
both
items.
Aqui o que mudou é só o que na hora de mostrar os itens.
Dungeon map tooltips. This is, I know, Adam. This is one that.
This is one I like. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you.
Vão ficar juntos, como eu vou selecionar de valor. Provavelmente são aqueles que não têm valor.
It's no longer hidden by the whisper being active on the dungeon.
Yeah, everyone's got a like one or two things in particular that are fairly like small in isolation. They're like, oh, thank God that thing is changed. Like that one thing got updated, which is great. We're excited.
Gente, não chegamos nos 200 likes, o que quer dizer que não vai ter classe nova na temporada 2, viu? A Blizzard acabou de me mandar um zap aqui. A Blizzard, tá? Não é uma pessoa.
You've got a bunch of different filters down there. You can filter by item
type,
os filtros ali. You can filter by sacred and ancestral items. And then you can see there at the bottom we've got a text box, so you can search for keywords and other text on the item.
Gostei disso
and this searches
aqui.
across all your stash tabs too. So if you take a look at the top there, you can see that the, well, it's a little bit hidden by the tooltip right now, but you can see that there are 4 items in this tab that have that fill the criteria and none in the other tab. Or in this case, there are 3 in that tab and 1 in the other tab. So they're highlighted, so make it easier for players to search through and find items in their stash.
Yeah, another Hutley.
É filtro no baú, né? Não é filtro de loot, tá, gente?
UI UX updates in general are, fueled by feedback that we've received either, through social media or on our forums.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have some more.
Eles aumentaram o baú. Quer dizer, vão aumentar no caso.
Hide identifying information like character names or BattleNet tags for other players can now find these settings.
Streamer mode.
That's right. Streamers, you got.
Você marca o filtro que interessa e já marca o resto como lixo também.
This is one that we've seen a lot of feedback on. Players want to be able to hide vulnerable, the status effect text, so vulnerable, dodge, fortify.
Diminuiu o flavor text do combate.
Added to the menu to hide those, so you can hide them.
Sem pets, gente.
Hiding the combat numbers.
Yeah, this is a direct response to everyone on X and other media platforms that will text on a regular basis asking for this option.
Yeah, they'd be like, I can hide the numbers, but I can't hide, fortify.
Totally fair. Happy to get this out to players. Yeah.
É desigual mais bilhões na conta.
And, we've added an auto run feature, so you can bind a key to auto run, and then you can the character will run in the direction that they're facing.
Auto run. Precisava.
The direction that you.
Patch faz tanta diferença. Rods, é que o patch no Diablo 3 ele pegava o ouro e os itens.
Your inventory, bring up the map, those kinds of things.
Não, ele pegava ouro e material, se eu não me engano. Acho que item não.
And then we have a lot of...
one more thing.
Oh.
I don't want to forget this.
I'm like, see, we have so much stuff, and I know... I try to get ahead of myself. And
Yeah,
but
this
go to
one,
the next section.
this one is important. The
minimapa.
Antonio was talking about the
Eu também não vejo, nunca vi assim. Eu tinha no Diablo 3,
the
mas...
minimap significantly zooms out the base zoom level.
Pega só ouro, né?
Really
não pegava gemas também, ô Thiago?
Navigate through some areas of the world.
Começa de 17 aqui.
Sort of more dense in terms of terrain and obstructions. And navigate in dungeons. This means that when you're in a dungeon, you can see more of the dungeon
layout. Pets do Torchlight sempre foram legais. Eu gostava que ele voltava para vender as coisas. Eu achava mó legal.
In the overworld, you're not sure which way it leads back to the main trail. Like this is definitely a huge benefit for players.
And I know now I can get ahead of myself here. We have a lot of updates regarding items as well that we do want to kind of go over. So, Mr.
E agora é itens.
Oh, yeah, sure. Happy to talk about some things. So, yeah, we made a few changes. I know that some things we've already talked about a bit before, right? But here, gems no longer drop directly as rewards. Now, players can be earning these new gem shards, these fragments, materials they can use at the jeweler to craft their own gems. So basically, as you're wandering through the world,
essencialmente agora gemas você compra.
Dropping these fragments as you play. And rather than having
esse autorun é botão que você aperta e ele começa a andar para onde você está apontado, entendeu? Aí se você mudar ele para de
then as you want to create gems, you can go back to the jeweler. You can spend those fragments to create gems rather that will go into your inventory that you can then slot on items the way that you like. So it basically takes all of those gems that have been randomly appearing from completing events and opening chests out of your inventory and gives you the option as the player to choose when you want to go and create gems that you need for your items.
And just to make sure people are aware, like, of course, when you do create a gem, it does then appear in your inventory, which then allows you to then, of course, sock it into an item. But now you won't be finding all those gems
cara de cansados, né?
that will fill up your inventory. Those will just appear as materials now.
That's right.
Within your materials tab.
And you'll also be able to salvage those gems that you do create and then use those materials to go and create better gems. So, yeah, big changes there. It frees up a lot of inventory space. Feels good. Enchantment cost been updated. What a strange...
Agora o encantamento deu uma melhorada. Será que deu uma melhorada mesmo?
The ultimate thing here that I want to cut to is enchantment costs overall have been reduced. But the way that works out is that your initial enchant cost is going to be a little bit higher than it is currently for your first...
200 likes. Até que enfim, hein, gente?
And then
Vou avisar os caras que eles podem trazer a classe nova agora.
The cost of that, re-enchanting that item is going to go up much more slowly over time. And it's not going to spike quite as quickly. So players overall, it's going to be a little bit less expensive for players to go and try to re-roll items to their heart's content.
Cara, o re-roll tá mais barato.
With the changes that we made to Whisper Back.
Mas tá mais caro para você primeira.
Way more gold from at those moments. Greatly, significantly increased in those situations are going to help those defer a lot of those costs for players.
A classe seria Witch Doctor, olha.
Go and trade and do other things instead.
Tá no top 3 de pedidos, viu?
Okay, so another really big change here is that when players get into higher world tiers, I'll read the line and then I'll explain it. So crafting materials will drop in place of lower item power, normal magic, and rare equipment in world tiers 3 and 4. What do I mean when I say that? What I mean is when you go into world tier 3 and you start getting sacred items dropping
Item normal,
you will find that you will no longer be having normal items dropping from monsters. The only
vai virar material em vez de... Porque você ia vender ou transformar em material mesmo.
Right. So instead, when you would have got like a rare item before, that is going to be, you're going to get crafting materials that you can use instead, dropping on the ground if you just go run over and pick up, as opposed to having that rare item in your inventory. Now, this is another one of the reasons why we made this big change to the Whisper Gold increase. We made some other gold increases as well, to basically offset any concerns that players
Cara, Will, muita coisa que eles mexeram é de feedback da comunidade. Então, assim, se não lançasse, não tinha feedback, né?
If a legendary item drops for you that is of normal quality that you could have got level 50, in World Tier 2, if a legendary item drops for you, that will still appear for you in World Tier 3. So that you're not going to be losing out on legendary.
Já fica exato, né? Tipo,
when you go into World Tier 4, only ancestral items will drop for you as you're playing. You will no longer see sacred items or normal items from that point forward. Once again, legendary unique items in that case of sacred nature or normal nature will still continue to appear for you as you continue to play. But
essencialmente o filtro de loot eles colocaram assim. Não tem filtro de loot. Mas agora o loot que era bosta,
inventory management.
Eles vão
ensure that
ele não vai cair, ele já vai virar material.
Of course, getting the benefit of getting all the materials now from the items that we're dropping beforehand, they'll just now be materials that will be in their materials tab.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meu medo é a quantidade de gold que a gente vai ter.
So another thing we're doing as part of season 2, and again, this is on the Eternal Realm and also in the Seasonal Realm, is that when you start to go into World Tier 3 and 4,
no crafting vai só ter rebalanço no custo.
More powerful based on the monster level that you're fighting. This is in response to, so all of the item changes we're making in response to player feedback we've been receiving since preseason and season 1. Season 2 represents...
Quanto maior o nível do monstro, maior o nível do...
Kind of answer
do item que vai cair.
Getting things tested, getting things into the game. So we're really excited to offer things like this. But there's situations where players will get into World Tier 3. They'll finish off a lot of the gear that they need inside Sacred Tier fairly early. 50, 55, 56. They start getting ready to make the transition.
Não é aquela coisa, não é filtro do POI, mas já é alguma
And then that can end up in a
coisa.
situation where by the time that you are level 60,
Não vai ter T5, Soldário.
you've kind of collected all the ancestral gear that you can get, minus uniques you might still be hunting for. Once you
Bizarro chegar só agora com feedback. Mano, o jogo lançou em junho.
particularly eye power wise, as you're progressing through.
Ô, Rods,
Now the way
programação não é magia não,
that,
cara.
starting in Sacred Tier, I guess we'll talk about Sacred Tier first. So, if you fight a level 55 monster, you'll have the typical Sacred eye power range when you're fighting that creature. When you fight a level 56 creature, the eye power minimum and maximum of that range increases by 2. So every monster level from that point forward, the eye power of the
o loot ser melhor conforme o nível. Sim, isso eu concordo.
encourage players to want to go
Isso devia ser antes, né? É verdade.
more difficult, higher
Não é
level-
magia, é tecnologia.
When we talked before about the monster trailing change that we made, the monster level trailing change we made earlier in the presentation today, Joe mentioned that was kind of aligned with some
Mano, os caras acham que não, mas é só trocar lá. Filho, não é só trocar, cara.
ensuring that players have a sense of progress as they go. And when we think about sacred and ancestral progression, when you're getting into that part of the game, one of the
Faz
things we want
sentido
to try to ensure is that
o
players
Blood Knight do Immortal na temporada
have
do...
the
Puta,
time
faria.
to go and kind of gather items of value that they can use to put their build together. But we don't want the player to feel like in an effort to hit that solution, the feeling of not feeling and not getting any real progress past level 70 in this case, if you're getting into your ancestral gear fairly early, that's not worth the cost of making sure that you've got your time to get your things together.
Mano,
So instead, we want to make sure that you have opportunities for
o
upgrades.
Samuel, mas é sempre assim, né?
So in World Tier 4, starting at level
Mudar
7,
código... Mano, mudar código pronto às vezes dá mais trabalho que você fazer de
by
novo.
2, for every monster level above that, so, going up pretty high. Once you get to level 100, now you're dealing with ancestral items of eye power potential of 920. At
Ô,
that
Dig,
That's
bem
level
isso.
100, right? Once you start fighting higher level monsters than level 100, when you're fighting like level 101 monsters, level 102 monsters, the minimum range of the item output goes up by 1 for every monster level from that point forward.
Caralho,
So you get to a point where when you're fighting level 150 creatures and such, that the eye power range of that item, 155 monsters and such, the eye power ranges of those items are effectively like on par. Like they are, it's like 920 to 920 is like the end result long term as you go deeper and deeper into the system.
Yeah, so you start to shrink down that window.
Então agora compensa fazer
That window, so that you're getting drops for
as
yourself.
dungeons do pesadelo de nível mais alto, porque os monstros de nível mais alto vão dropar itens.
It's much more likely to get the
mais
maximum
fortes.
high power rolls that you're looking for.
Rimos muito, fui demitido.
We did change the ranges on affixes that are attached to the
Então, eu quero ver as das resistências, cara. Resistência, crítico, essas coisas eu quero ver.
Damage on your weapons, more armor value on your armor pieces, and more of the inherent resistance, which is so much more important now in season 2 than it was in the past, attached to your jewelry. So that will continue.
Não vai ter coração do barbeiro,
high power
não.
for these gear pieces. So now this is naturally going to push players to fight more difficult monsters, and we want that. We think that's fun, right? But that's not, we want to make sure that other content pieces also provide the opportunity for meaningful rewards as well. So one other change that we made here for Whispers, for example, is that the caches that you get at the end of a Whisper turn-in, the rewards for that are actually 10 eye power better, which would say that they're 5 monster levels higher than what you would normally get, because usually rewards that you get from these caches are based on your character level at the moment that you turn these things in. Based on the World Tier Vivo.
Porra, compensa muito entregar.
Additional item power value from the items that you would get from that cache normally. And then, in addition to that, the upgrade caches, the legendary cache that can occasionally appear when you're turning
A
in
recompensa da árvore era com base no seu nível. E agora ele vai ser no seu nível e vai colocar mais 10 item power.
Players to want to go and try to collect rewards from engaging with these systems.
Para 820 com frequência? Eu acho que sim.
While they are getting materials they need to go and summon the Echo of Varshan in World
Samuel, calma, você sobrevive.
And then next, of course, is Helltide caches also benefit from this.
Não dá pra ler, não tem problema. Eu estou falando o que tá passando ali. Coelho, obrigado pela gank. Galera que chega no Coelho, sejam muito bem-vindos. Vai ter resumão, fica tranquilo, gente. Helltide agora é mais 20 no cache. Gente, galera que chega no Coelho, sejam muito bem-vindos. Quem tá aqui, segue o Coelho também. Aguenta aí que a gente tá vendo as novidades do Diablo 4. Quem não tá aqui, ó.
Allow these cache systems to provide meaningful rewards
Dos coelhos.
And again,
Coelho, tá na hora de reinstalar o Diablo, hein? Queria falar nada não.
is you mentioned
920 for Ancestral.
920.
Yeah.
There we go. Because I know there's a lot of people asking 820, 920. So
yeah, we think that these are going to be some
jogo do Diablo que não tem Diablo, assim, deixando claro aqui.
Upgrades as they play through those content tiers in World Tier 3 and World Tier 4. They have a smoother journey as
Demir,
this mixed with like
quanto mais forte o inimigo, maior o item que mais forte o item que ele dropa. Não morri no meu bárbaro hardcore. Aí, ó. Agora dá a chance de você morrer com ele.
I'm gonna like go back to 20 minutes or 30 minutes ago when we were talking about the 5 bosses and being able to progress through them. You know, one thing that we
vai ter vídeo de resumo, Walter, pode ficar tranquilo.
And how, you know,
não vindo rede, mas vindo coelho. Boa, Ancard.
Uber Duriel.
Isso daqui eu achei muito bom, cara.
But with all these
dá pra farmar Whisper pra pegar o item?
They all have their own loot table.
Não, na verdade, dá pra farmar boss pra pegar os itens.
That in itself is
a Whisper, né, a Árvore dos Lamentos, agora te dá itens melhores do que antes, mas ainda não é um item específico.
Yeah, you'll find iPower 920 stuff off Duriel. So there are unique items that Duriel drops that are only, some of them are very new and coming in with Season 2, that only come from Duriel that are just really powerful, right? And then
Duriel vai ter itens específicos, ao contrário da Lilith que você mata só pra falar um joinha. Duriel vai ter itens específicos.
Generally unique items that drop from these bosses.
Que eu acho da Terra plana.
Roll the full like 75 iPower range. You know, they're much tighter across the board as you kind of step up into the more powerful bosses. You know, so I think the iPower range for Duriel, the iPower range for Duriel is much smaller than 75. I don't remember exactly what the range is specifically for that number, but.
Que corta a Terra plana, please, pizza.
They have a chance to drop.
Muito um Paragon, mas cara, o Paragon agora é por personagem. Eu prefiro desse jeito do que era no Diablo 3, viu?
And all of the affixes on the Uber Unique also always roll at the highest values possible. So when you get an Uber Unique item, there's not a better version of that specific Uber Unique item that you can get. That's always the very best one.
Yeah, so if you're,
os Uber únicos, gente, eles deixaram claro aqui, porque tinha muita gente com dúvida. Quando ele cai, ele é o mais forte que possível. Não, ele nunca cai, tipo assim, aquele Uber único, mas caiu meio zoado. Não, ele sempre cai tunado.
And again, like to reiterate, we still actually have more to talk about.
Yeah, we didn't talk about classes.
We didn't talk about
Tem work and word boss? Não.
Unique item changes.
Só mais word boss, não.
And I will note, like, unique item changes, like I said before.
Mas é o que o Ang falou aí, bem isso.
Unique items, or nearly all unique items are getting some sort of update.
Sim, vão ter novos itens.
On October 10th. I know a lot of people have asked for Mr. Adam Jackson.
Vai ter Duriel com a Aura Gélida.
Be back on October 10th to talk about all the different class changes that are coming.
Duriel era Aura Gélida ou era Veneno?
He has been summoned. He's on vacation.
He's on vacation.
We got the materials.
He's watching though.
We got the materials to summon.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about all that stuff. We're also going to be talking about, you know, the resistance changes and stuff that we've been talking about already today, and how it's going to be much more valuable for people to be ensuring that they have it on like rings.
Era Aura Gélida mesmo?
All those other.
Well, então provavelmente vai continuar com Aura Gélida.
We're getting into it, but there are changes to the way that it works. So. Like,
é verdade, né? Andariel era de fogo, aquela biscate. Não, Andariel que era veneno.
Resistance boss, but like with the current resistance system, how is that going to work? And the 1010 stream is really going to explain it, how those changes work. And,
exactly. And I will also note that on the 1010 stream, we will even be talking about the first update that will be coming even after Season 2 launches. And that's something that, you know, we can briefly talk about here, which is after Season 2 launches, we'll of course have additional updates that will be coming within the season. And each of these updates are going to be adding new things, new ways of being able to enjoy the content.
Viu? Não, tô malhando, porra.
That players have been asking for. So we'll be actually showcasing what 1-to-1 will be in.
Era Veneno, Duriel de Gelo, Diablo de Fogo, Mephisto de Raio. Obrigado. Eu lembrava da Andariel, o Duriel eu não lembrava.
More to even talk about at BlizzCon. So if you are going to be at BlizzCon, make sure to check it out.
Mas quanto tempo começou?
Streaming, and there'll be more information.
1h30 já.
I know, like the BlizzCon collection items and everything that will be available for players to be able to partake in. That will have. You know, items within Diablo 4 and of course items
Ryan, você tava jogando de mago, né, velho? Porra, você não queria que fosse sofrido?
Going to be featured at BlizzCon, like World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and all the others. So.
But most importantly, at BlizzCon, you can bug Adam in person.
Yes, you can bug all of us in person at BlizzCon. So if you are going to be coming to Anaheim to check it out, and if you're interested in coming, of course you can grab a ticket to BlizzCon, which is in early November. So should be good. First weekend in November, Friday and Saturday.
O vídeo resumão vai ficar grande, cara. Porra, pior que vai.
Another thing that we did want to talk about is there's some changes that are coming in regards to Smoldering Ashes. For the free tier of the Battle Pass, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from players, and this kind of ties back to the experience items that we were talking about, where the tiers of the Smoldering Ashes were pretty deep in. And
nessa temporada 2, druida pet é real, será?
And I know one of the big changes that we're doing is the character level requirements for those.
Cara, Tempest Roar não sei, velho. Por isso que eu não jogo de druida.
So players will now actually run into those Smoldering Ashes and be able to use them. And they will automatically unlock now, which is really nice. Earlier within the actual Battle Pass as they're playing through, which is...
cinzas...
Like miss one when you're leveling up, which I think happened to a lot of players. Certainly happened to me. It's like, so now when you go back to the, when you go and you actually open up the Battle Pass, you'll see that you've already unlocked those Smoldering Ashes. You can go right and spend those in your...
E o monge vem quando? Depois do Witch Doctor.
New season blessings. Yes, there are 3 new season blessings for season 2 that will be part of the new Battle Pass, of course. And of course, one other thing with the Battle Pass is there is going to be new town portal skins that will be unlocked and available for players as well.
Olha, skins de portal. Bom, já tinha no Diablo Immortal isso, né, gente?
Color town portal, if you'd like, and there will be other...
Pega sol nos braços, óbvio, né, o Pepe? Eu passo o protetor aqui, assim, e aí eu vou... Eu fico com os braços assim.
You can look like you're friends with Imperius, or like best friends with Imperius, and, with your new town
and again,
portal.
the free track.
Exactly.
Yep.
Imperius, Inarius, sorry.
Well, any of the ancients.
Yeah, technically,
just pick
it would be more
angel.
orange, I would say.
Qual vai ser a próxima classe?
Match him, so.
Mano, dá exclamação nova classe, Wang.
Love here's the stuff.
I've got Imperius on my mind right now. Well, we do actually have one other big news thing that we did want to actually talk about today as well, which is we are bringing more Diablo IV players into the world, because we're here to announce that Diablo IV is actually going to be launching on Steam with the launch of Season 2. So on October
Diablo 4 tá chegando na Steam.
Nice part about being on Steam, of course, is it carries over the same elements as all the other or all the other platforms.
Gente, antes que vocês falem que a Blizzard tá fechando e coisa e tal, tá?
Will work immediately, day one for anyone who
a Activision Blizzard tá colocando todos os jogos na Steam, tá? Não é o Diablo que tá morrendo, só pra deixar claro, tá?
From both sides, which is awesome to see. So
eu acredito que eventualmente eles querem fechar a Battle.net.
For Diablo 4 coming on Steam. It's really nice if you...
Não quero gastar de novo.
If you have a Steam Deck, it's another option of being able to play Diablo 4, because you can now take it like on the road with you, which is really good to see. So,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, lots of
Sanctuary on the go.
Mano, vou ter que comprar de novo.
Yeah. Which is good. And by the way, cross progression and everything. Of course, that works with the console players.
Só pra deixar claro, é cross progression, tudo cross save e tudo mais, tá? Então não tem tem nenhum problema, você não perde nada.
A lot of content here in a pretty efficient manner.
So fast.
We actually are going to go through some Q&A from everyone in Twitch chat. So
tem que platinar de novo na Steam, né, velho?
And you're in Twitch chat, feel free to ask the question. We'll try to grab as many questions as possible, and I'll use my trusty iPad.
Isso é bom menos para desenvolvedores de um programa específico, é bem isso. Não, comprar de novo. Mano, você tem o jogo no PC, você não precisa jogar na Steam. Se você quiser comprar na Steam, é porque você é fresco. Eu vou comprar? Vou. Mas assim, é jogar dinheiro fora.
Yeah. So we've obviously
precisa comprar o jogo novamente, eu digo, vamos lá. O jogo vai lançar na Steam, ele não vai virar free to play, não. O jogo é crossplay, o meu dinheiro não, é bem isso, vírus.
Getting like perfect items feels like, and really what players are meant to do once they reach like that threshold of the game where they're
Cara, o Blood, o negócio, a Microsoft não influencia nada ainda.
Ideas of things we want to add on the itemization side in Diablo 4, the sorts of things I talked about earlier in the item section, like those really are just like some first small steps of the sorts of things we want to do. But we're reading through all of this feedback, we have like really interesting ideas and designs that we're working on the side. And we're excited to be able to bring those things to you over time. And we'll be talking about more of them in the future. But yeah, we have big plans for itemization for Diablo 4.
Yeah, I mean, really the themes here are more endgame stuff and improvements to itemization.
Yeah.
Tá, itemização é assim, vamos trabalhar na itemização.
Cursed 47. It's great to improve mounts, but what will you do to fix and address open world items? Teleporting from Nightmare Dungeon to Nightmare Dungeon sometimes isn't very fun and wasn't the best way to fix the time issue. Is there more plans for open world elements? Using mounts sometimes doesn't feel like it matters after a certain point.
O cara tá falando que depois de um certo nível não tem por que você ficar no mundo aberto.
I'm not sure what is being asked there.
They're asking if there's going to be like some more plans for some like open world.
Mas sim, puxa os troféus. Boa, Caio.
I think a lot of this ties back to.
Vai ter Paragon no Diablo 4? Já tem, Alofo.
Because Seasons actually ends up adding a lot more content to the open world, even with Season 2, with us being able to add additional objectives and everything.
Se fosse pressão da Microsoft, estão colocando aí na Steam, sim, não Windows Store. Concordo, Souzário.
We want to have a mix of gameplay that occurs in dungeons, which is core Diablo gameplay, and gameplay that's occurring in the open world. And so with Season 2, you see things like the
Blood Harvest.
The new Blood Harvest, exactly. And some of the changes like the monsters being on level with you in open world, and the changes that Joe talked about with item power based on monster power.
Yeah, in addition to that, just making sure that the various activities we have in
Mundo
Diablo
aberto continua ao mesmo jeito, gente.
more rewarding to engage in on their own. One component of that being that the summoning materials
Começa dia 17, a nova temporada.
These special unique items and in some ways to go.
Tá tendo drops? Não, o drop é do Assassin's Creed.
Uber unique opportunities, like these represent, I think, good steps forward to kind of make these content feel more compelling in general. But as we continue to march forward and we're looking at
Não, o Blood, vende mais.
With like all of the
é dinheiro, a Activision gosta de dinheiro, gente.
Parts of the endgame experience. There's a lot of room there for us to continue to create more distinct activities.
Cada live o Joe Shelley parece mais uma caveira assim.
To bring out like various kind of parts of Sanctuary to make things more fun and engaging for players. So this really is again like just like the first step of the sorts of things we want to continue to add and inject.
Vi boato que o Hado vai startar de mago. São boatos.
Adding more content, the overworld is a part of that. Particularly like content that has like high monster density and is like fun to go and engage with and slaughter monsters in.
Adding it and the relevance of the content in the world, right? Because if there's content in the world
de mago escondido,
relevant, then you're just riding past it, right?
That's absolutely right. Yep.
We have a question from
Vou dia 10.
Legless Puppy, which probably rolls around on wheels.
300 likes, você faz a temporada de mago. Como é que tá ali? Deixa eu ver.
Wheels? That's pretty cool.
I mean, I guess if it has wheels.
Yeah.
Sure.
Não, porque é possível do pessoal chegar nesses likes, então não.
Taking legs off puppies, but
500 likes eu faço de mago.
weird take.
Is there any chance of the level cap being removed off?
Lord Zir é... Ele é dungeon, não é World Boss.
Yeah, sure. So we have talked before quite a bit about how we look at power progression in Diablo 4. Particularly, we talked a lot more about this like before launch, and a little bit before Season 1. But Diablo 4 is designed.
Necromante é clérigo, por favor. Não me misture com essa gentalha.
I want to make sure that we find the right ways for players to continue to grow the power of their characters as they continue to engage in the game. We will be looking for more opportunities for players, particularly as they reach level 100.
Qual classe você acha que vai ser melhor nessa temporada?
We want to find
Necromante, óbvio.
That feel in ways that feel compelling and are fun, and don't feel like this extra task work.
Quero resumão em PT disso aí, não? Vai resumão vai.
Yeah, I think if I
Necro é mago emo.
The reasoning behind that question, I think part of it comes down to.
Clérigo com timing ruim, mas é clérigo.
We talk about cap power.
Sacerdote não é maguinho.
Reasons like you're talking about, but also players are saying like, well, I ran out of stuff to do. Can there?
Cara, mas sempre tem, Arthur, classes melhores, classes piores, sempre tem essa.
Increasing the Paragon glyph cap could be one way to do that. The way we're doing it in Season 2 is through all of the endgame boss summoning mechanics.
Yeah, the endgame boss summoning mechanics, and then the vampire powers people level up as
That's
the
right.
season,
yeah.
right? But yeah, it's It's not even just having more things to do. It's making sure that there are more things to do that impact the performance of my character, and I feel like there's more ways I can get stronger.
At endgame for yes,
right.
Yeah, that's a much better way to say it.
No, yeah, but I think that it's all fair, right? I think that there's room here for us to continue to add more of
Mano, eu queria falar nada não, mas o Paipora daqui a pouco não cabe na cadeira ali, né?
Look forward to more of those.
Necro é healer, a diferença é só o timing,
Yeah.
Mavastra says, could we have a Paragon board reset button? Or be able to buy it resets.
Botão de reset no Paragon Board, gostaria, muito.
Won't talk about anything today, but...
We'll look into it.
Wink.
Yeah, what an interesting idea.
Aparentemente vem, tá? Ele falou, eles não podem...
Next question that we have is from... trying to pronounce these names here.
O Antônio falou no comecinho das dungeons, o Adriano. Depois ele só tá balançando a cabeça.
Question about Uber Uniques. Is there a chance for you guys to improve Uber Unique stats?
So Uber Uniques are going to be one of those things that are going to get discussed, I think, a little bit more next week when Adam is on talking about the content.
Uber único semana que vem, gente.
And the various like item bucket changes and things, or the affix and skill bucket changes they've made. So I think that's a good question for that group to answer as part of that conversation, but I suspect that there are opportunities for us to make some...
Não tenho de coragem de comprar e gastar dinheiro com um jogo flopado como Diablo 4. Boa sorte pra quem tem. E, apesar disso, você tá aqui na live, né?
Is the stash
assim,
usable for legendary power?
Não tem dinheiro, mas você tem tempo pra gastar, né? Então, em vez de você tá na live...
And search through those.
Mano...
It'd just be...
sei lá, tipo, arranja um trampo extra, entendeu? Aí você tem dinheiro pra gastar com o jogo flopado.
Nelix87 says,
mas sim, sou eu.
Clan some love. Currently, clan management is very limited. Clan leaders and their officers has very minimal tools to track anything related to the clan. Are there like maybe plans for like clan stashes or more opportunities for clans to actually be able to, share?
Yeah, we'd love to add more social options and in particular clan management tools.
Clãs, pelo jeito, não vai ter nada de novo na temporada 2 não, gente.
That's something that we'll have more to share on in the future.
Pewter Odin says, will we be receiving more coins in the Battle Pass instead of 666? And I know that there is a change this season for the Battle Pass because there was a lot of feedback where players would receive platinum and then they wouldn't be able to actually end up using that platinum to be able to grab something from the shop. You will be able to use platinum from the Battle Pass this season because there's going to be options now that will mean that specific amount.
Porque assim, o passe de batalha te dá 666 de platina. Não tem nada na loja que você consegue comprar com isso. Nada.
Sepulus? Look, I pronounced
Aí eles estão falando que agora, tipo, ou não falaram o que, mas que você vai conseguir gastar o dinheiro a platina que você ganha no passe de batalha na loja. Agora, se eles vão reduzir o preço da loja ou aumentar o número de platina, a gente não sabe. Pode adotar um gato também, é verdade. Aí o gato puxaria o cabo da live.
But yeah, I think there's more than, I think there's like 12 uniques in season 2 right now.
Yeah.
We'll be continuing to evaluate these counts as we go, but now that there's ways for players to farm these things, we're excited about trying to find more opportunities to inject some of them. But we
se o jogo fosse do meu agrado, com 2 S's e I, compraria como comprei o Resurrected, simples assim. Entendi. Então você tá aqui só pra reclamar. Entendi.
We think that there should be more.
Live de reclamação é 2 pra esquerda. Eu sei, muita gente confunde, porque...
question from
mas é 2 pra esquerda.
Good name, not biased at all. How is Duriel going to compare to Echo of Lilith regarding difficulty?
É o virgem reclamando da zona, sabe? Ai, é que esse puteiro tem umas putas muito feias. Você nunca comeu ninguém, filho. Vai tomar no teu cu, cara.
Which I think we've seen some of those changes even during the course of season 1.
Sabe? O cara tá na mão. Falou, filho, pra quem tá na mão, velho, puta feia ainda tem buraco, bicho.
A little bit easier because you can use all the materials to go and fight Duriel and you could fail. Right? So like we want to make sure that if you have gotten your build together and you know the fight really well and you've got the proper amount of poison resist, which I recommend, that's going to make it a little bit easier to engage with overall versus the
mas mano, que eu falei.
Kind of separately. So Duriel
tem gente que gosta com o pau dos outros, velho. Foda-se.
In this way.
I'm going to try to combine 2 questions into one here because I think they're pretty pretty similar in terms of, or at least we can talk about them both together. Team
Dependendo da situação, fico na mão, meu não. Mas assim, pelo menos você já fez o test drive, entendeu?
Oh, you already did. But we can. Thanks, Joe.
You have to say it before.
I did. I was saying I was going to combine
two.
And then now I can't even find the other question, but it was related to. Oh, here it is. Fat Teppy says, "Do you guys have any plans for Eternal Realm content, something permanent that isn't just seasonal?" Which I do want to note because Joe just mentioned. Yes, the boss ladder items that we were just talking about will be going beyond Season 2, and then they also will be part of
do Reino Eterno.
Day 1 with Season 2.
Quando chegar a temporada 2, quase todos os itens da temporada vão pro Reino Eterno também, como vem na temporada 1, tá? Então, tipo assim, o Reino Eterno sempre vai estar meio que correndo atrás da temporada, né? Então, olha ali, brigadíssimo pelo resub. Já achei com alguém tomando uma jantada. Não. Mano, não. Deixar claro. Velho, eu não tenho tempo pra ficar perdendo pra ficar falando, ai, ó céus, ó vida, mano, não é pra mim, velho. E se é pra você, procura outra live.
Question from Ice Gammon. Have you guys given thought to being able to craft
depois que entrou na academia tá terrível.
keys rather than crafting over and over to get a specific dungeon?
Yes. We are still kind of talking about how we want players to engage in Nightmare Dungeons and what makes it most fun for them. So we're in constant conversations and we're looking at gameplay and analytics and also just general player feedback. And we're taking all of these things into account. So it is one of the things that we're thinking about.
Essencialmente, tipo, mano, o que eles querem é melhorar o loop das dungeons, né? Das dungeons do pesadelo.
Readability of their attacks compared to, like, you know, other bosses or other encounters that we've had in the past.
Yes, there have been.
Yeah, I think I know we showed, like, really brief.
Usando meus R$500 que paguei no jogo com Whey.
Yeah, and like we even showed like the boss like quick little intros as they're kind of coming in. Right. But like you can at least with
alguma chance de ter montarias que não sejam apenas vacalos, cara, eu acho que sim.
Regarding the tiles, and you can clearly
eu gostaria de ter a Isabela lá, o camelinho.
When encountering this specific boss. So yeah, there are some changes for sure on that.
Falta muito pro dia 17, tá foda. Tem uma BGS inteira antes dessa temporada, mano.
VR Bulbul.
Jojo todinho da Blizzard.
Builds to a wardrobe like Diablo 3, potentially in the future.
Oh, builds, yeah, like you can with transmogs right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that we'd like to add in the future.
Salvar builds eles querem adicionar.
Yeah.
Não sabem quando.
Yeah, continue to be true.
Has not.
Caralho, você viu?
Is there any plans for this from Intrepid Gamer? Are there any plans for like adding a trade interface where players aren't having to actually use?
Quero lobo, tipo, lobão, ia ser legal, hein? Jojo todinho da Blizzard foi foda, né, velho?
Opportunities to find.
Cheguei agora, vai ter o resumão, ô Lucas, fica tranquilo.
Baked into trade chat right now,
o boss de gelo é o Diablo Azul, sim! Eu falei isso, eu falei, mano, esse é o Diablo Azul, cara.
I think we're starting to see players begin to stress this.
Conquistados não seguem a temporada, né? Começa tudo do zero. Não, temporada começa tudo do zero, Marcos.
Yeah.
So that's going to tell us about like
montaria de lixo igual aquele saco preto.
Improvements to the
Sai algum patch notes? Não.
Yeah.
Arcadium OW says, previously the idea of permanently upgrading our Codex of Power with extracted aspects was discussed. Are you guys still interested or looking into this?
We want to make the Codex of Power better in ways like that, and we'll have more to share on that in the future.
It's an interesting idea.
Códice de poder, gente, eles
in
não vão mudar nada, mas vão mexer mais pra frente. Quanto mais pra frente, temporada 3 ou 4.
Coming in Season 3, yeah.
Season 3 feature. So, leaderboards are definitely coming. Available in Season 3.
Leaderboards, a gente já sabe. Temporada 3 também.
Says, do I need to buy the game again in Steam, or is there...
mago montado no mago.
Use of it in Steam if I bought it before. don't need to buy the game again.
Não vão reformular o modo de zerar o Paragon? Vão.
Let me clarify.
Mas vão discutir isso semana que vem.
Play it on Steam, but if you already have the game, of course, you have the option of playing it on the other platforms. Specifically from that front, there's some people that prefer to purchase games on Steam and have it available there. So they have that option now, starting with Season 2 on October 17th, when the game becomes available on Steam. So.
Não posso participar. Peraí. Então, porque eu não gostei do que a Blizzard entregou no Diablo 4, eu não posso participar, mesmo sendo inscrito.
Legolas Puppy again.
Léo, não é isso. A questão é.
Diablo,
tipo
is there
assim,
any changes planned for?
Se a sua ideia de discussão é chegar e reclamar, mesmo sabendo de um jogo que eu tô me divertindo, você tá falando, olha, não, o jogo é uma bosta. Não, se pra você o jogo é uma bosta, não. Fica à vontade. Só que nem eu falei.
They've capped out some of these sorts of
eu tô me divertindo, eu tô hypado pra próxima temporada. Eu vou me divertir.
Exactly what we're going to do. We're not ready to talk about just today, but we are definitely aware of the interest in that particular solution, for example.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about the changes in Season 2 that relate.
Entendeu? Mas assim, o lance é o seguinte, aqui não é live de reclamação que fica aquela câmara de eco, que a galera fica reclamando, e aí o streamer começa a falar, não, mas porque é uma bosta isso, porque é uma bosta aquilo. Mano, é um jogo que eu gosto de jogar.
VZat says, can Duriel drop...
Vai continuar o esquema das Estados Elite? Vai. Se você, as que você liberou já vai estar liberada e já vai estar tudo certinho.
No, the items that drop from Uber Duriel at that stage are not going to always be, like the rare items won't always be 920 eye power. They're going to follow the same range as if this were a level 100 monster. So there's still a 75 eye power swing on the rare item drops from Uber Duriel, or the Duriel, the King of Magnets. Right? So that's really more the focus there.
Josh, a decomposição me incomoda, mano. Eu acho que ele não resiste à temporada 4, não, mano.
Of rare items, but the Uber uniques will always be at 920. But rare items, no, they will still have they'll still have a range. If you want to get title range on rare items, then you can maybe potentially think about going and hitting nightmare dungeons of a higher eye power range, or a higher level range, because then you're going to start having the eye power min of the rare range start to go higher and higher with every new monster level that you fight.
O lance é Nightmare Dungeon, pelo jeito, vai dia 17, Leandro.
Plans or discussions regarding loot filters that you guys want to talk about?
I'll just acknowledge that being able to filter your loot is part of...
Acho que o bilhete vai vir uns 10 GB mais ou menos, será?
Enjoy and...
Me diverti jogando de mago na Preciso 1.
And it's something that
Tem louco pra tudo, né, Dino?
And then, let's see, there is a question from Misfit Dio, which is, will Nightmare Sigils rotate within the season, or will it be the same dungeons for the whole season?
It's going to remain the same set of dungeons for the season in the current format.
Pô, a pergunta foi boa, cara.
We can talk about what rotating them more frequently would feel like. It would mean invalidating
rotação
for a period of time, or having a smaller selection of dungeons overall that rotates more regularly. But right now, we've really focused on making sure that we've got, the set of like 25 really exciting Nightmare Dungeons.
São 25 Nightmare Dungeons que vão estar na temporada 2.
Alright.
E não vai rotacionar. Então são as mesmas 25 que vão ter do dia 17 até o dia que acabar a...
Which is stash tabs. And because obviously we have changes here for Season 2 that address a lot of inventory.
Então, vamos colocar um filtro no inventário, sim.
Are there any plans for additional stash tabs in the future?
Só jogo de mago se tiver skin do Patolino.
I don't have any announcements on additional stash tabs, but what I can say is that we recognize that there continues to be a need, and that there will continue to be a need for more improvements to being able to store items. That's just players. It's an RPG. Players want to store a lot of items, and we're going to continue to make improvements in this area. You've seen some of them here today in Season 2, and we're going to continue to work on this.
Awesome.
So, took a bunch of questions here. And, we went through all the
Harry Potter
Season of Blood changes, or new Season of Blood mechanics that are going to be coming for players on October 17th. Again, Season 1, which is Season of the Malignant, actually ends on October 17th. And Season 2 starts also on October 17th. All the dates and times are actually going to be listed on a blog that will be live immediately after this live stream. I will note that the plan
foi grande, sim.
To actually start at 10 a.m. Pacific.
Não, é 2 horas aqui, a próxima do dia 10 é 2 horas de novo.
Or anything like that. You have that ability of being able to do so now. So we will actually be back
Ainda tem mais no dia 10.
For a campfire chat on October 10th with Mr. Adam Jackson, who will be going over all the
Só falta invocar os minions.
changes, class balance changes, class updates.
O tema da próxima live são
updates that are coming in within the game, along with the damage bucket updates for overpower and
baldes de dano,
critical strike damage updates that are coming.
E resistências.
Unique item updates that we are going to be covering.
E únicos.
Obrigado. Q&A associated with that. So there's a lot to talk about on the 10th as well. And I will note that we do plan on having patch notes available on the 10th immediately after that stream, so people can read
patch
through
notes no dia 10 também.
Currently 41 pages.
Já conseguiu pegar a coca? Não!
For people to kind of sort through and read through all the changes that will be coming within the game. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Again, Season 2 is October 17th, and again, Diablo 4 will now be available on Steam. You can wishlist that now, and it will be available with Season 2 when it arrives. So we have a lot to talk about on the 10th, and to talk about 121 on the 10th.
Pizza vai esfriar, pois. Pô, não, pizza fria eu gosto, cara.
And of course, more to talk.
Pô, eu tô ficando malhadão, né?
So,
Deixa eu ver aqui.
thank you guys again from the whole Diablo 4 team here at Blizzard.
Deles acabou, a gente vai fazer um resuminho aqui.
For the October 10th stream. Have
Thank you for playing.
Yeah, thanks.
Tava boladão ali, velho. Deixa eu vir pra cá. Gente, então essa daqui foi a live do capeta. Deixa eu fechar aqui. E colocar... Vamos ver se já saiu o blog post no Brasil. Não saiu ainda. Tá disponível pra lista de desejos na Steam, cara. Pior que eu vou colocar na minha lista de desejos, velho. O pior é isso. Notas do patch. Chega em 17 de outubro. Deixa eu ver aqui. Notas do patch. Tá, eu vou ter que colocar em inglês porque não saiu ainda em português. News. Diablo 4. O almoço pesou. Manda o resumo. Já vamos fazer aqui, ó. E agora, hein? Aqui, pelo jeito, acho que não saiu. Temporada do sangue. Não, ainda não saiu um patch oficial. Mas beleza. Vamos voltar aqui. Porque você tem pizza de 120 pedaços? Não, mas pera aí. Essa pizza de 120 pedaços é uns pedacinhos assim? Diria que jogaria Season 2? Mano, depois do que eles mostraram hoje, eu vou jogar pra caramba Season 2. Porque, olha, coisas que eles mostraram. Pizza trem? Mano do céu. Eu só tenho pizza mesmo, sabe? Eu só gosto de pizza. Mas vamos lá. 2 metros de pizza, mano. Pra que tudo isso, gente? Deixa eu ver aqui, porque tem... Atualização da campanha do Assassin's Creed da Ubisoft. Pera aí, vamos ver isso aqui, porque... Preciso farmar a chave. Mano, então, esse negócio de farmar a chave foi a coisa que eu mais gostei. O que eles mudaram? O que vem na temporada? Né? Os poderes vampíricos que eles mostraram um pouco. Vou dar só um resumo aqui, gente. Porque depois eu vou encerrar a live. Eu vou pegar o vídeo, pegar o VOD daquilo, ver tudo de novo, anotar tudo certinho pra fazer um vídeo pra sair amanhã cedo, tá? Aí por ela fala, mas por que você não rusha o conteúdo e lança hoje? Porque vai ficar uma bosta. É por isso, entendeu? Então assim, o lance é esse, tá, gente? Eu não vou soltar esse vídeo hoje, porque vai ficar uma bosta. Entendeu? Tipo, pra sair um vídeo fuleira, eu prefiro que não saia agora. Então amanhã sai um vídeo certinho, com toda a informação que a gente precisa. O auto-salvage, o Ademir, que na verdade não é um auto-salvage, você não vai escolher isso, tá? Mas a partir do momento que você chegar no nível de mundo 3 ou 4, os itens brancos e azuis, e até amarelos, que são de item power baixo, vão ser desmontados automaticamente, então eles só vão cair como material. Então você não precisa se preocupar em pegar um monte de lixo para depois ver que o item power era baixo, sabe? Não, vai cair como material, então só vai cair os itens de nível alto para você. Itens que vale a pena você dar uma olhada. Tá? Assim, um resumo, cara, eu gostei muito do que eles mostraram. Eu acho que estão no caminho certo. A gente não viu ainda as mudanças dos baldes de dano e das resistências. Mas eu acho que vão fazer as resistências pesar bastante. Por quê? Todos os bosses que eles mostraram têm dano elemental. Então eu tô achando... vai ter lobisomem de capinha. Eu acho, cara... Se eles acertarem os baldes de dano, né? Tipo assim, e viabilizarem outras builds que não sejam apenas aquelas coisas... tipo, dano invulnerável, né? Se conseguir deixar pelo menos nivelado, falar, não, eu quero causar dano crítico, eu quero causar dano invulnerável, eu quero causar golpe brutal. Se existir esse equilíbrio, eu já acho que já compensa pra ter diversidade de build. Porque não tem isso no Diablo 4 hoje. E eu gosto do jogo, tá? Mas a diversidade de build é baixa. Né? Tanto que eu não soltei vídeos de builds tipo, que eu queria fazer porque elas não eram viáveis. Eu comecei a jogar e não era viável, sabe? A build não funcionava, não ia funcionar. E aí eu nem soltei nada, sabe? Tipo... Só druida tem diversidade de build, melhor. Então, o late game, pelo que eles estão falando, nossa, vai melhorar muito. Porque ele vai te dar a opção, né? Ah, quero enfrentar o Duriel. O Duriel tem chance de cair Uber único, tem únicos que só caem nele, e ele é boss de nível 100. Quer dizer, nível 100, né? Ele é o boss mais forte do jogo. Então... Ao contrário da Lilith, onde você... vou matar o Uber Lilith pra ganhar um cavalo, sabe? Porra nenhuma. O caçar o Duriel vai ser como se fosse fazer as máquinas infernais no Diablo 3 na época. Ó, nos meus... eu não coloquei inteligência nem força, só destreza. Mas você tá jogando de quê? Ah, pra crítico, tá. Todas vai vulnerabilidade na build. Sabe? Então, assim... e não compensava ter resistência a elemental, porque não era um lixo, não servia pra nada. Então, cara, eu acho que melhorou muito. Você acha que a variedade de monstros é pequena comparado ao Diablo 3? Não. Pior que não. Pra quem tem emprego e transa, vai ter algum incentivo na temporada pra chegar no nível 100? Não. Assim, nível 100 tá mais fácil, porque vai ficar mais rápido pra você chegar no nível 100. Mas não tem nada no nível 100 que, tipo assim, óbvio, tem os chefes, como a gente falou, né? Tem o Duriel, que cai os Uber únicos, e tem as Dungeons do Pesadelo, que também tem chance de cair itens cada vez mais fortes. Mas, assim, não é melhor que uma foda. Nerfs e buffs semana que vem, Michael. Exatamente. Camisinha do Diablo e capinha da Lid pra proteger a sua CLT já na loja da Blizzard. Vai ter novas habilidades? Não. Mas eles vão fazer um rework de vários itens únicos. Então... pode ser que dá uma bela de uma melhorada. Porque assim, muitas das habilidades únicas dos itens são meio fracas, tá? Vamos falar a verdade. Tem muito único ali que não servia pra nada. Mas... depende do que eles vão colocar. A gente vai ver só na semana que vem, tá? No dia 10. Vai ter alguma melhoria na itemização? Vão ter várias, Wesley. Mas eu vou ter que pedir pra você ver no resumão. Tem muito único lixo. Tem... temporada 2 começa no dia 17. Tá? Não na outra semana. Então assim, depois da BGS... Falando em BGS, gente, quem tiver em São Paulo, vou estar na BGS todos os dias, hein? Quem quiser colar lá, avisa no Twitter ou dá um sinal de fumaça que vou estar em todos os dias. Quem quiser encontrar, tomar uma. Qual que é a vantagem de eu querer um Uber único no nível 100? A minha vantagem é você querer um Uber único nos níveis mais baixos. O Uber único ele já vem com o status fechado. Marcos, eu adorei, cara. Nossa, adorei as coisas que eles mostraram, velho. Achei muita coisa legal. Mas muita coisa legal mesmo. Então, assim, gostei muito das coisas que mostraram, mesmo, tá? E é só metade, né? Semana que vem que eles ainda vão falar nas mudanças que vão impactar as builds, né? Boa, Mauro. Eu vou estar todos os dias lá, gente. Level vai vir no DLC, vai ser... não, tipo, novos níveis, essas coisas, gente, é a expansão, tá? Então, não vou precisar de um item mais forte se eu não vou upar mais, ô Leonel. Aí é que tá. Essa é a conjectura de uma galera que não jogou Diablo. Nível máximo no Diablo não quer dizer que você tem um item mais forte. Porque você no nível 100 com uma build bosta, vai apanhar pra alguém no nível 80 com uma build fechada. Entendeu? O nível do item faz toda a diferença. Tá? Tipo... Então, se o cara... vamos falar, você tá no nível 100, mas tá fazendo um Nightmare Dungeon nível 150. Então, os itens que caem ali são muito maiores do que os itens que você pode fazer conteúdo no nível 100, entendeu? E quanto mais forte você tá, maior você pode empurrar essa dificuldade para pegar itens cada vez melhores. É build que manda, não é o level, exatamente. Necro agora vai aparecer a buff e caça vampiros. Mano, o pior que buff era legal pra caralho. Então, o Veron, o lance é esse. O que eles querem agora é te dar um loop melhor do que tinha no Diablo 4 base. Por isso que agora, pra você liberar o Duriel e farmar os Uber únicos, que é o que você vai fazer no Duriel, você precisa fazer meio que todo o conteúdo do jogo pra liberar a chave. Você precisa construir a chave. Era a mesma coisa da máquina infernal, né? Então você tem que matar o Varshan, você tem que matar... esqueci o nome lá. Do outro cavaleiro. Pra liberar... Ainda tem mais um outro, né? É o Diablo Azul. O cavaleiro. O Varshan. E aí você cria a chave pro Duriel. Que é no Duriel que você vai farmar hard mesmo o negócio, entendeu? Só que pra Varshan você tem que farmar Árvore dos Lamentos. O Cavaleirão lá que eu esqueci o nome. Você tem que farmar Dungeon do Pesadelo, sabe? Então assim, Varshan e o Gregório tipo... Trem de reforjar os itens na temporada 3. O crafting do Diablo 4 é bem Bom, não tem crafting, né? Você só faz um reroll ali. Eu vou falar a verdade, eu gosto do reroll, tá? Por quê? Você escolhe uma coisa ali e troca. Não gostou, mano, vai farmar outro item, sabe? Porque senão vira um jogo de crafting e não vira um jogo de farm. Eu prefiro que seja farm do que craft. Craft é passivo. Você junta o material, você para no artesão ali e fica clicando o botão pra cair o que você quer. O farm, pelo menos você tá batendo em alguma coisa. Cada temporada vai vir um diabo de uma cor. O bom é que lá pra temporada 5 a gente tem os Power Rangers, entendeu? Ô Kleber, mas aí a história do Diablo 4 eu gostei. Eu acho que tem lógica, sabe? De não ter o Diablo 4 agora. O Diablo... Porque passou poucos anos... É que nem o Mephisto. O Mephisto, quando na história você encontra ele... Ele fala, cara, eu tô na merda. Por quê? Depois dos eventos do Diablo 3, quando eles ficaram presos na Pedra Negra das Almas, todos os males supremos se fuderam ali. Então todos eles estão recuperando a sua força. E 20 anos pra eles, mano, 20 anos é 2 peidos. Né? Enquanto pra humanidade 20 anos é muita coisa, pra um mal supremo mano, sabe quando só levanta a nádega à esquerda e dá aquela escapada de peido? Isso é 20 anos pra eles. Diablo 4, Reaper of Gregory. Aquilo parecia mais um Balrog azul, eu concordo, no Mizi. O Megazord do Diablo. Então, assim... Pô, eu gostei muito do que eles estão fazendo. E eu gostei, assim, porque... Muitas das coisas que eles estão fazendo é por causa de feedback da comunidade. Já estão as novidades no site do jogo. Obrigado. Deixa eu dar um F5 aqui. Já tá mesmo, obrigado. Ô Fábio. Meu, tem coisa pra muita coisa. Já são 5 horas, cara. Não, né? Tipo assim, deixa eu mostrar aqui. Mano, o blog post tá gigante. Vamos lá, deixa eu vir pra cá aqui pra mostrar pra vocês. Aí dá pra ver, né? Marconi, brigadíssimo pelo superchat. Ó, jogador Diablo, pra ver a lore, você acha que enrolaram a lore na campanha do Diablo 4 só pra ter continuidade em expansões? Jogou caro pra pouco desenvolvimento e história. O Marconi, eu vou falar a verdade, eu já acho o contrário, eu gostei. Porque o que eles fizeram no Diablo 4? Só pra tipo assim, minha opinião, tá, gente? Diablo 4 tem muito mais lore do que os outros Diablos tinham. Assim, de quantidade, tá? Então, assim, tem muito mais personagens que você se importa com eles do que os outros tinham. Então eu achei boa a história. E outra, precisava resetar, que nem eles falaram. Ao invés de fazer um reboot do jogo, eles rebootaram com o casal 20. Deu a briga do casal, os dois morreram. A partir de agora, gente, tem como é que chama? Tem a profecia e a gente meio que espera o que vai vir nas expansões. Mas todo Diablo tem expansão. Diablo 2 teve isso, lembra? Você matava o Diablo, mas sobrava o Baal. É o Baal que sobrava? Eu nunca lembro. Eu sempre confundo o Baal com o Mephisto. O Baal. Sobrava o Baal. Então, assim, por mais que você fala, não, mas Diablo 2 tem uma história completa. Mas e o Baal? Sabe? O Baal tava vivo. Ele veio na expansão. Cadê o link? Deixa eu pegar aqui, peraí. É o site do jogo oficial. Maior campanha do Diablo entre todos. Eu concordo. Na real, foi o que eu mais diverti. Eu gostei. O casal 20 tipo, gente, pra quem é velho, sabe, vai entender o que é casal 20. Pra quem é novo, vocês podiam ser velho. Deixa eu colocar aqui no YouTube também, gente, pra vocês verem o blog post, tá? Eu gostei dessa lore porque é o seguinte, pra começo de conversa, a menina lá, a Neireli, é muito melhor do que você vai pegar uma... Como é que chama aquela desgraça? A filha da Adria. Mano, eu esqueci. Eu odeio tanto aquela menina que eu esqueci o nome dela. Meu, como é que chamava aquela biscatinha? A Leia, obrigado. Mostrou o passe, mostrou um pouco do passe. Não mostrou inteiro, não, mas mostrou um pouquinho. Então, a Leia era meio que só uma pé no saco ali, né? Já a Neireli não, cara. E a Neireli se fode. Né? A Neireli perde um braço lá, sabe? Ah, eu vou ser... Tipo, é aquela coisa, ele pode, deixa comigo que eu vou. Mano, ela perdeu a mão e você dá uma machadada no braço dela. Ninguém passa batido ali, velho, sabe? Todo mundo se fode na história do Diablo 4. Eu gostei muito disso. Foi feito Diablo em termos de história, foi ruim o primeiro ao quarto. Sim, sim. Eu gosto da lore do jogo. Eu acho que o que difere Diablo dos outros jogos do gênero é a lore. Sabe, a lore do Diablo, pra mim, sempre foi muito melhor do que dos outros jogos do gênero. Porque nos outros jogos você não liga. No Diablo, é aquela coisa, você termina, você fala, aí você vai ler alguma coisinha, você vai procurar um post no blog, você vai ver os livros. Tem muita coisa legal. E assim, tem muita coisa que é bem desenvolvida. Óbvio que, mano, essa história do Diablo 4, a gente sabe que teve rework por anos, tá? Que começou de um jeito, depois mudou. Então, assim... Mas, pelo que foi entregue, eu não acho que não foi satisfatório, sabe? Tipo, no Diablo 4, eu senti falta das cinematics. Pô, eu senti falta, mas eu vou falar a verdade. As in-game eu não achei ruim, não. Achei muito boas. Assim, eu achei ruim porque só tem efetivamente uma cinematic, né? Mas todo o resto é o seu personagem. Aí é o que eu gostei. A mina da Season 2 é uma Demon Hunter genérica, certeza. Mas ela é Demon Hunter mesmo aqui? Porque a gente viu, a gente falou, não, é Demon Hunter, tudo bem. Bom, gente, eu vou ver isso aqui depois. Olha o tanto de coisa. Sugue o sangue dos inimigos usando poderes vampíricos. É o sangue, não é outra coisa, gente. No Mestre das Trevas, para a mesma salvaria, os poderes vampíricos. O que antes era uma arte proibida se tornará a salvação de santuário. Sangue potente. Adquirido de adversários abatidos, sangue potente pode ser gasto na aba de poderes vampíricos no menu. Aqui tem aqui, ó, você gasta o seu sanguinho aqui. Depois de aprender um poder vampírico, é possível gastar sangue potente na aba para elevá-lo até o próximo nível. Cada poder pode ser aprimorado até o nível 3 no máximo, e até 5 poderes podem ser equipados a um personagem ao mesmo tempo. Que ele exibe de 1 a 3 símbolos e números, são chamados de pactos. E o número é o valor de custo e armadura de pacto. Ó. Mano, ativação custa 2, 2 e 2. Caraca, essa daqui é pesada, hein, Metamorfose. Tem mais, exatamente, ainda tem mais a live no dia 10, que a gente vai fazer a mesma coisa. Vai ter que comprar o Diablo 4 na Steam também? Puta, Poloche, eu acho que eu vou comprar, cara. Você não precisa. Ninguém precisa. Quem tem o Diablo 4, você não precisa comprar na Steam. Mas eu acho que eu vou comprar. É foda, mas eu acho que eu vou comprar. Preciso? Não. O bom é que eu não preciso comprar 500 conto, eu posso comprar a edição base. Bom, gente, o pior é assim, o papo tá bom, eu tô me divertindo aqui, mas eu acho que eu vou encerrar. Por quê? Eu preciso fazer esse vídeo aqui pra amanhã. Por que pra amanhã, gente? Porque eu não vou lançar vídeo hoje, eu não vou rushar esta merda. Adicionar a lista de desejos, sim. Meu Deus, meus dinheirinhos. Vai beber coca também. Este é a melhor plataforma. Não. Sim, ô Poloche, não dá pra você migrar. Tá? Não é aquela coisa, olha, eu quero jogar na Steam agora. Não, você tem que comprar o jogo na Steam. Mas se você tiver na Steam, você tem todos os dados que você tinha. Então você não perde nada. Mano, eu comprei o jogo duas... Assim, eu comprei o jogo 2 vezes, aí eu sorteei acho que 2 cópias, então eu comprei o jogo 4 vezes. Eu peguei na Steam, na Battle.net, no Xbox. E... Gente, por quê? O que acontece? Se você tem o Diablo 4, já joga em qualquer plataforma, e comprar aí na Steam, todos os seus saves, todos os seus personagens, tá tudo lá. Tá? Então você não perde nada. Fora o dinheiro que você vai ter que comprar de novo, né? Um salve pra galera do Reino Eterno. Leve em suas orelhas, né? Na área do PVP. A mão pra pegar na Steam. Então, cross progression tanto que de vez em quando eu faço live, eu jogo no Xbox porque o Diablo 4 simplesmente não funciona com OBS. Não funciona essa merda, né? E aí eu jogo no Xbox, mas é o mesmo save. Então, assim, tá bem legal isso aqui, cara. Gente, é isso. Alguém tem que trabalhar nessa casa, e aparentemente só tem eu aqui, então é isso. Galera, muito obrigado de novo pela presença de todos vocês. Quem ainda não deixou o like no YouTube, deixa o like no YouTube. Essa live vai ficar aberta, vai ficar lá no YouTube pra quem quiser rever as coisas e tudo mais, tá, gente? Amanhã, vídeo sobre o nosso queridíssimo... Tô bem de boa da Steam ainda, né, velho? Então amanhã cedo, provavelmente amanhã cedo, vai ter o vídeo. E dia 10 tem mais uma live. Eu não sei onde que eu vou arranjar tempo não, tá, gente? Só pra deixar claro, mas é isso. Semana que vem, BGS, pra quem estiver por lá, em São Paulo, me dá um toque. Pra quem não segue no Twitter, @Hadomancer, eu vou colocar aqui na telinha de finalização. Gente, cadê a telinha de finalização? Achei. Então é isso, gente. Muitíssimo obrigado novamente pela companhia. Pra quem tá na Twitch, gente, segura aí que eu vou mandar vocês pra algum lugar. Pizza depois da BGS. Mano, pode ser, hein? Uma boa ideia. Galera do YouTube, estou encerrando. Muito obrigado de novo pela presença e a gente se vê amanhã no próximo vídeo, hein?